This guy is an enormous powerhouse. When you stand next to him, everyone else appears like tiny weaklings, and it's not just his size, he's incredibly strong. He encounters a massive ogre that bullets can't even harm. To everyone's astonishment, he effortlessly destroys it with just a couple of hits, without even breaking a sweat. Later, when he's surrounded by alligators in a lake, instead of becoming their prey, he easily takes them down alone, his skin tougher than steel. He drags their lifeless bodies onto the shore and roasts them whole. Then he devours them right there, chomping down large pieces one after another. Everyone watching is left speechless, wondering who this guy truly is. The truth is, barbarian blood runs through his veins, and here's how he ended up with humans. Many years ago, in the land of the barbarians, the mightiest warrior fought against a group of hostile invaders. Barbarians are born warriors, trained to fight and die with honor in battle. The warrior shouts to his wife to activate a spell, while he holds off the attacker. From a distance, Aiden views his father as the bravest fighter he knows. Even after his betrayal by his own people, his father still fights to protect his family and his honor. As the battle rages on, his mother struggles to complete the incantation. At last, she manages to trigger the magic, sending a powerful beam of light into the sky. She pushes Aiden toward the light, urging him to escape to any place far away from the bloody battleground. With tears streaming down her face, she bids him farewell. Although Aiden is afraid, his father reminds him to grow strong, because strength is the only way to safeguard what truly matters. The protagonist cries helplessly but still chooses to follow his father's word. Even as death approaches, his father feels no fear or regret, carrying only the pride of a true barbarian. The scene then shifts to a bustling modern city. There, a group of bullies surrounds a wealthy-looking boy. They demand he hand over his possessions. The boy is actually Jin T. Kim, a senior at Janelle High School. He asks them to stop before things get out of hand. But the ringleader laughs and mocks him for warning them. Jin T tries to tell them his friend is on the way. The leader dismisses this, sarcastically asking if his friend is some kind of Hulk or monster. Before the bully can strike Jin T, someone breaks through the wall beside him and knocks the leader out with a powerful punch. The bullies stand in shock, staring at the wrecked wall. Then our hero steps out from the rubble. This man is named Chil Du Kang, also a senior at Janelle High School. The bullies, now panicked, ask who he is. Chil Du simply states that he's Jin T's friend, but internally he knows he's actually a barbarian. After taking care of the bullies, he and his friend leave the scene. Jin T is in awe of how he smashed the wall with just his fist. Jin T even wonders if Chil Du is really human. Our hero flinches but assures him that he is. Internally, he reflects on how it's been 10 years since his arrival on Earth. Jin T still seems unsure, which makes Chil Du wonder if he still gives off barbarian vibes. He decides to ignore his friend's thoughts and heads home. At home, he finishes 3 bowls of rice, but his grandfather thinks he's not eating enough. As he starts his 6th bowl, Chil Du mentions that his appetite has been off lately, expressing concern for his grandfather, who hasn't eaten at all. The old man explains that he can no longer digest food properly and feels full just by watching his grandson eat. Chil Du feels deeply grateful to this elder. When Chil Du first came to Earth, his grandfather took him in without asking for anything in return. In the present, the old man tells him that a director Park called earlier. He asks if Chil Du told the director he wants to be a boxer. Chil Du immediately denies wanting to pursue sports. This leaves the old man stunned, not understanding why. The old man remembers how Chil Du has been winning awards in various competitions. However, our hero reflects that humans and barbarians are completely different species. He believes that competing in human sports would go against the very spirit of fair play, though he doesn't want to let his grandfather down. He knows that a barbarian can only truly be a warrior. Thinking back to his final moments with his father, Chil Du resolves not to participate in human sports. Instead, he craves a fierce battle with someone who matches his true strength. The problem is, Earth is far too peaceful. However, the old man soon witnesses shocking news on TV. In Cheongju, many lives have been lost and the government has decided to launch a full investigation. The grandfather informs them that roughly 120 people have perished. The news reports that the event is connected to a mysterious creature. Newly released video footage reveals an unknown beast seen in the vicinity. Upon viewing the footage, Chioldu begins to tremble. The elderly man grows anxious. However, our protagonist decides it's time to move on. Soon after, he and Jintai set off for Changju in a new vehicle that belongs to Jin T's father. While on the road, Jintai reminds his companion that he should obtain a driver's license. After expressing his gratitude, Chaldu ponders the creature from the video. He recognizes it from a barbarian land. He is convinced this event is connected to the world he once called home. Unexpectedly, their car halts at the entrance of the Yangem tunnel. A large crowd is gathered, signaling that something significant is happening. Jin-T spots soldiers in the crowd, and our protagonist realizes they've reached the disaster zone. Noticing Childu's imposing stature, a stranger approaches him and inquires about his employer. These people are from New Song Development, INC. One of them hands Childu a business card and asks him to join their organization. Holding the card, our hero wonders if this is a warrior guild. The stranger laughs at this suggestion and clarifies that their group is involved in colonizing a planet, so they need workers, not warriors. After a brief pause, Childu rips up the business card, insulted by the notion of a warrior being reduced to just a worker. The man from the company grows enraged, unable to tolerate the rejection. He mocks Childu for his nonsense about warriors. Tension rises as both prepare to clash. However, their confrontation is interrupted by something unexpected. A dark void appears at the tunnel's entrance. The crowd braces themselves for something to emerge, while Jintai stands frozen, bewildered by the situation. Suddenly, a system window pops up in front of a massive black orb. The notification announces the start of the Doomsday exam. Another panel reveals that Doomsday is arriving on Earth. A third message explains that the refuge planet Nova offers salvation for Earth's inhabitants. The final notice instructs everyone to flee through the portal to Nova. A gigantic beam of light materializes deep within the forest. Jint and Chioldu step out of the light and find themselves surrounded by trees. Jin-T, in a panic, screams, failing to comprehend how they ended up in the middle of nowhere. He blames Childu for dragging him along and expresses his concern for his beloved car. Just then, a system window pops up, prompting them to collect one goblin coin to view their class advancement rewards to novice. While Jintai struggles to absorb the information, Childu tells him to focus. They are suddenly surrounded by goblins and Jintai freezes in shock. Not expecting the system to force them to battle these creatures, he barely finishes speaking before they're under attack. Childu charges forward with all his might. He's been waiting for this opportunity all his life. With a grin, Childu eagerly tests his strength, landing a crushing blow on a goblin. The creature is sent flying, wrecking everything in its path. At last, our hero feels an exhilarating surge of adrenaline that makes him lose control. His barbarian instincts take over as he obliterates the remaining goblins with his bare hands. Chioldu is thrilled to finally face Doomsday. Jintai is astounded at how easily Chioldu defeats the goblins. As the final creature falls, it dissolves into the air, revealing a golden coin. The system panel explains that this is a goblin coin, the basic currency used in Nova. However, this specific version is a non-transferable type only available during the Doomsday exam. As soon as the coin touches Childu's hand, a system window appears. It shows that he is now eligible to become a citizen of Nova and advises him to enter the portal to reach the new world. Jintai, still behind, struggles to grasp the significance of what just happened. Our protagonist looks around and points at a dark void. He identifies it as the portal. Later, Jintai appears worse for wear, his face swollen from their earlier scuffle, holding a stick. He shouts at Chioldu, asking why he was thrown into a crowd of monsters. Childu reminds him that since the coins are non-transferable, Jin-T will have to earn his own to advance, despite the explanation. Jintai continues to complain. In the midst of his rant, a goblin charges at him with its weapon raised. Jin-T panics, believing they were all already dead. Just in time, Childu intervenes, slamming the goblin to the ground. He once again reminds his friend that true strength is earned through battle. Still, the hero takes it upon himself to protect Jin, fully aware that his friend's predicament exists because of his own action. Jintai, the battered companion, expresses his gratitude, noting that at least the quest has been completed. Meanwhile, two soldiers scan the area with binoculars searching for their lost duffel bag. Supplies had been stolen by goblins, prompting the soldiers to plan an immediate strike. Before they can intervene, Childu discovers the bag first. He retrieves the vital supplies that will ensure their survival. Spotting a figure near the gear, the soldiers raise their weapons in alarm. They initially mistake the survivors for hostile creatures. Luckily, they recognize their error before firing. Later, the four sit down to cook together. The soldiers apologize for the misunderstanding, which Chioldu dismisses with a casual shrug. One of the soldiers is amazed that the pair is completely unarmed in such a perilous area. Jintai explains they arrived by accident, unaware of the true nature of this place, and inquires whether the military is involved. The soldier confirms, noting that the government is preparing for humanity's potential extinction. He elaborates that Nova is currently in a primitive stone age, requiring teams to reconstruct civilization from the ground up. Various corporations and factions are already maneuvering behind the scenes to gain supremacy in this new world. The protagonist asks if Nova is as overrun with monsters as this training area. The soldier clarifies that this zone is only a simulation. Nova itself is the true challenge. He stresses the importance of training here as the actual planet will be far tougher. Unexpectedly, the soldier offers them the duffel bag, filled with enough rations and weapons for both. Jinti expresses sincere thanks, while the news of Nova's dangers only fuels the hero's excitement. During the night, Koldu sets out to hunt again, dragging a bewildered Jintai along. Jintai struggles to understand why more fighting is necessary after passing the test. Childu explains that resting is not an option after the soldiers' warning. They need to grow far stronger. They soon notice a tower constructed from wooden sticks, emitting an unusual aura. The figure resembles a goblin but seems much more menacing. Jin T points out how its physique differs from the ones they faced before, but the protagonist is thrilled to confront the challenge. He rushes ahead, leaving Jint behind. The goblins guarding the tower's base notice him approaching, but he incapacitates them before they react. The elite goblin atop the tower spots Chioldu ascending. Fueled with determination, he aims to take it down, but the creature casts a spell. It strikes its staff with a surge of lightning, catching him off guard with magic. Childu is hit directly, prompting Jint to shout in panic while the goblin grins smugly. Surprisingly, Childu refuses to back down. Even scorched, his enthusiasm remains undiminished. The goblin strikes him with lightning again. He does not flinch. The electric charge courses through him, yet he endures the pain, revealing he is more than a mere barbarian. He declares himself the son of a powerful sorceress. Reaching the summit, he channels his own lightning and proclaims that what doesn't kill him strengthens him. In an instant, his power obliterates the tower. Chioldu crashes with the rubble fully scorched. He grins, having faced death, thankful for the magic resistance inherited from his mother. Among other rewards, he receives a glowing golden orb, identified as the Orb of Magic by the system. This unique item permanently boosts magical power. Activation requires 10 coins. Our hero wonders if he has truly acquired sorcerer abilities. As the orb merges with him, his injuries heal instantly. A surge of strength overwhelms him. Jin approaches, astonished that his friend survived the lightning, questioning whether Chioldu is even human. The warrior mutters his own name dazedly, worrying Jintai, but the pause is brief. Chioldu is immediately ready for more hunting. He plans to track down more sorcerer goblins and claim their orbs. Jint panics, shouting for him to stop. The next morning, Jintai emerges from his tent to see that Chioldu hunted through the night. He proudly shows off a collection of magic orbs. Eager to test his newfound powers, he feels far stronger than the day before. Suddenly, a system notification appears, signaling that 24 hours have passed and that boss monsters will start appearing. These foes are far too dangerous for newcomers, and the system advises everyone to escape immediately. Jint panics, urging the use of the portal to flee, but the protagonist resists. He is drawn by the temptation of them. The idea of facing stronger foes. Before long, a young ogre shows up. The beginner tests boss monster. The soldiers try to shoot the arm gripping its enormous club, but the rounds do nothing. As it raises the club to crush them, our hero steps in and shatters the weapon entirely, standing before the creature. Chioldu is ecstatic to finally fight something bigger than he is. He orders everyone to back off so he can handle the ogre by himself. Driven by sheer resolve, Chioldu delivers a crushing strike. But to his shock, the ogre barely reacts. It feels like he's hitting solid metal instead of flesh. In the next instant, the boss slips free of the young man's hold and blasts him backward with overwhelming force. Watching the one-sided clash from the edge, Jin T realizes the ogre far outmatches the boy. One of the two soldiers earlier remarks that it's impressive Chioldu has survived this long, since boss monsters usually aren't meant to be beaten. He adds that without a tank, a team doesn't even have a chance against something like this. Sprawled on the ground, the protagonist never imagined the ogre could be so strong that one hit would hurt him this badly. He concedes the creature is stronger. Just then, the boss swings a heavy blow at him, but he narrowly avoids it. In that instant, Chioldu decides he won't trade head-on blows. The ogre suddenly unleashes a flurry of attacks, and he evades them one after another. Our protagonist notices the swings are straightforward and easy to read, so he quickly slides in, seizes the creature's arm, and turns its power and bulk against it. With unwavering resolve, the boy hauls the beast by the arm and slams it violently into the ground. Then he springs up and drives a punch straight into its mouth. The ogre collapses with shattered teeth and a bleeding mouth. The fight still isn't finished, as Chioldu rains down a frenzy of punches on his opponent. The soldiers can only stare, stunned that he's bringing down the boss monster with nothing but his fist. Chioldu stands upright and boldly proclaims he's beaten a monster stronger than himself. Now he's eager to meet more boss monsters or any other formidable challengers. The moment the defeated ogre breaks apart into digital particles, a black orb forms. Our hero wonders what kind of power it holds as a new system panel appears. Reading the alert leaves him slightly taken aback. Later at the portal, the two soldiers thank him for rescuing them, but Chioldu brushes it off, saying he only stepped in because he wanted to fight the ogre. One of them proposes they stock up as much as they can at the shed before going to Nova. He explains that only items bought from the shed can be taken to Nova. To their surprise, the shop even has a goblin who can talk. Meanwhile, the two soldiers head out to report back. Jint acts greedy, eager to learn what the boy plans to do with the coins they earn. For the protagonist, it's a simple choice. Later, the two of them spend every coin to trade for weapons at the shed. Jint is thrilled to begin the game with this equipment. Suddenly, a system message says they've met all the conditions to enter Nova, and the portal appears. About leaving for another planet, Jintai asks our hero whether he's nervous. Childu feels the reverse. He's bursting with excitement about what awaits them. A massive beam of light erupts, and soon both of them are transported to Nova. Shockingly, Nova has 2 moons. The planet resembles Earth, yet it feels subtly off. Gazing down at the lights, Jinti notes that others have already settled there and suggests they go over. But our protagonist says they have a problem. Jint doesn't get it until Chioldu's stomach growls. Our hero is extremely hungry, and Jinti gets tense because he knows his friend becomes a beast when he's starving. The trouble is, it'll take them at least half a day to reach the camp. Out of nowhere, a stunning woman appears behind them and asks if they need help. Dazed by her looks, Jinti asks whether there's food nearby, saying they showed up with nothing. The woman can clearly see they're carrying something on their backs. But when Jinta doesn't catch what she means, she lets it go and decides to assist them anyway. She says she knows a good spot to get food, so the two of them follow her. After a few minutes of walking, the woman points ahead to show them the place. She says she stumbled onto this fishing spot by chance. Jintai immediately decides to make a fishing rod from the items he bought at the shed, telling Chioldu he's better at crafting than him. The woman decides to head off to fetch some bait she left further up. Jinti feels thankful to have met such a kind soul, while our friend is on the brink of madness from hunger. As soon as Jint finishes setting up the fishing pole, the system rewards him with the production skill. He's proud and prepares the bait. However, Chioldu can't wait any longer. Our hero dives into the water, determined to catch the fish with his hands. Jinta is thoroughly frustrated that his friend can't control his appetite. Just then, a group of people approaches. It turns out the woman from earlier has brought them here. Jint assumes they are her friends, but she mocks him for thinking so. She says that in Nova, walking around like this is an invitation for thieves like them to strike. 2 men grab Jinti, and he finally realizes he's been tricked. She calls it the survival of the fittest, and bluntly demands they hand over all their belongings. Jinta warns her that she'll regret this if they hurt him. One of the men slaps him, asking where the other guy went. Someone else in the group laughs, thinking our hero ran off when he saw them approaching. At that moment, our boy rises from the water, flanked by 2 menacing crocodiles. He's busy with the reptiles while everyone else stares in horror, waiting for him to be devoured. Childu reflects on how amazing the skill he got is. When he obtained the black orb, the system told him he could inherit one of the ogre's special abilities. Now not a single scratch has been inflicted on him, even with crocodiles gnawing at him. Our protagonist now possesses the ogre's skin, tougher than steel. After defeating the crocodiles, he emerges from the water. Unexpectedly, upon seeing the group of thugs, our hero only cares that the fish he caught will only be enough for 2. Jint immediately yells that they've been tricked by these people. But our hero is still focused on eating the crocodile and asks if there's an issue. His friend yells back, explaining that these people are here to steal their thing, and they've already slapped him. 2 of the thugs step forward to knock the protagonist down, but Koldu sends one flying with a single punch. Our hero angrily declares that he doesn't solve problems, he eliminates them. After dealing with the thugs, our hero learns they are actually members of the Yungu clan who target beginners like them. The thug leader comments that Chioldu is pretty young but wonders which clan our protagonist belongs to. Our boy then asks if the leader is the boss, but the leader reveals their boss is Yungu Jang, the strongest man around. A woman adds that our protagonist isn't completely doomed since the boss got incredibly strong by stealing ability stone. While munching on the cooked crocodile, Chioldu thinks the boss is a serious problem too. The thugs, disgusted, watch him devour the meat with his bare teeth. He throws a piece of crocodile at them, demanding they show him the way to Yungu. Later, they arrive at the Yungu clan's headquarters. Once inside, our protagonist knocks out the higher-ups with a single punch. This makes everyone feel inferior. Now, Chioldu has fully digested the crocodile, which was difficult to chew. The members are curious about who this guy is, but all they know is he's come with those youngsters. They mock Jangdu, the leader of the earlier thugs, for bringing the enemy to their base. Jangdu, hearing this, thinks they're labeling him as a traitor. Now, even if the boss wins, he's still in trouble. At that moment, our hero calls for the leader to come out and face him like a man. Hearing him, Yungu steps out. When Jint sees his build, he's terrified as the boss is even larger than Chioldu. Yungu demands to know who's been messing with his people. The two face each other. Yungu remarks that our protagonist is too young to speak like that, but our boy mocks him back, saying the boss must be proud of being old and picking on the weak. To his surprise, the boss lands a mighty punch. Straight to his face, Yungu asks if his mother didn't teach him to respect his elders. Our hero grabs his fist and replies that she did, and she also taught him to be the strongest. The boss laughs, amused that our protagonist managed to block his punch and finds him entertaining. He's now intrigued by Koldu and tells him to join him if he wins. Our hero agrees and then decides to take the thugs with him if he wins. The leader of the group is baffled by this, and the battle between the two continues, with our boy landing a blow on the boss. The punch sends him crashing to the ground. Surprisingly, the boss shows no signs of injury and comments that today's youngsters are impatient. From a distance, Jinte is shocked to see that the punch had no effect on the boss. Jang remarks that it's futile. The leader of the thugs shakes his head, realizing that the boss might not be as vulnerable as they thought. Their boss already holds 12 power stones, with more than half being strength stones. On top of that, he has ogre's skin. Yet in this fight, Yungu faces some trouble, as our hero's punches keep landing. Yadu points out that Yungu is the most formidable opponent he has encountered so far. The old man stumbles back, his breath heavy, and claims that the strikes are just a mild nuisance, though inside he's feeling humiliated. He then charges toward our hero, ready to strike. However, his punch is stopped by another blow. The old man is taken aback, as pain shoots through his hand and fingers, causing them to break. A system alert indicates that ogre's skin activated upon impact. Now our hero's skin is tougher than steel. He grabs the old man by the throat and warns him to stay still or risk cutting his own tongue. When the old man's followers try to intervene, Jang steps in with his crew, making it clear that no one will interrupt the fight. One of the men is furious, accusing Yangdu of betraying his clan, but Jang counters that his loyalty lies with the strongest. Though deep down, he knows it's for the best, as the others have already branded him a traitor. Moments later, Yungu is sent flying by our protagonist. The crowd is stunned by his overwhelming defeat. Yungu crashes hard into the ground, and his people worry as he lies there, shaking. He doesn't want Koldu to come and finish him off. Our hero still throws a punch but halts it right before hitting his face. He remarks that he thought he'd found a worthy opponent for once. But now it seems pitiful that a boss is begging for mercy. Later, our hero's group seizes everything that belongs to the Yungu clan. Just as they're about to leave, Yungu kneels and asks him which clan he belongs to. Repeating the question, our protagonist casually answers that he's just a high school senior. Meanwhile, in another location, Chil's disorganized group sets up camp. Jangdu thanks him for taking them in. Our hero demands they be useful. He reflects that barbarians grow stronger through battle, and now he has his first followers. However, he still feels weak, as he hesitated before finishing Yungu. His father would have been disappointed if he saw him like that. Childu is frustrated, regretting not aiming for the head. He then turns to Jint and addresses him as the sub-leader. He asks if Jint has given any orders. Jint, surprised, smiles widely, confirming that he instructed them to set up the tents. With that, our hero decides it's time to move on. When Jint asks where they're heading, our boy smirks and reveals they're off to their next destination. Jint inquires what's in that direction. With confidence, our protagonist explains his instincts. Tell him that they will grow stronger there. Ahead of them stands a colossal pyramid radiating negative energy. Childu wants to investigate it. According to the system, this is the Holy Pyramid. The next morning, the newly recruited members line up in front of Childu. He praises them for setting up the camp before explaining his plan to cross the river. He orders the group to stay behind and guard the camp. Internally, Jangdu realizes Childu is trying to claim a territory no one else has dared approach. When Jangdu asks when they'll be back, our protagonist admits he hasn't set a return time, but he plans to return when it's time to head back to Earth. Jangdu mentions that the next portal opens in 4 days. The portal operates on a 5-day cycle, and with it opening yesterday, 4 days remain. 1 day on Earth equals 5 days in Nova. Jint breathes a sigh of relief, realizing the portal opens regularly, as he feared they might be stranded on this planet forever. Consequently, our hero decides to return in 3 days. He also plans to bring his father with him, as he can't leave the old man alone on an Earth that's nearing its end. Finding the information helpful, Childu asks for Jangdu's name. Jangdu answers right away, prompting our hero to assign him the number 1 spot. Despite Yondu's objections, Childu decides to call everyone by numbers 1 to 5. A woman in the group protests, claiming they have real names. Our hero silences her with an intense glare until she backs down. The members bow as Childu leaves with Jinti. Later, the two cross the river on a raft Jintai built. Thanks to this, Jintai gains experience points in production. However, Childu grows impatient with the slow pace, feeling it's too sluggish, so he jumps into the river. Jintai, left behind on the raft, yells that he worked hard to make it, but our protagonist swims while pulling the raft with a rope. Jint admits they're moving much faster now and sees how quickly Childu adapts, recalling his own past weaknesses. Jint decides he won't run anymore and will step up, now that Childu has made him sub-leader. Both men finally arrive at the base of the pyramid. From here, the structure seems enormous. The system confirms this is the Holy Pyramid. It instructs the user to activate the sanctuary to receive rewards. noting that the activation costs 2,000 coins. Jint carefully studies the instructions, while Chioldu chooses to focus on gathering the required currency first. Unexpectedly, Jint proposes collecting the coins separately. He explains that, even with the world ending, he has yet to achieve anything independently. He wants to attempt completing a task on his own. Later that day, Chioldu keeps busy taking down Ostrachosaurus monster. Reveling in the excitement of battle, he easily defeats another beast that suddenly appears, having slain numerous creatures. He collects all the coins and orbs he needs. One defeated Ostrachosaurus drops a rare pink orb. The system recognizes it as a skill stone for pitch, a magically empowered projectile that enhances strength and speed. By absorbing the stone, he acquires the new skill and becomes stronger. He then begins to wonder how Jint is progressing. As night falls in the distant woods, Jint lures an Ostrachosaurus toward him. When the beast charges, Jint dashes to a rope he tied to a tree, hoping the trap will work. As the monster strikes the line, Jint takes the opportunity to plunge a knife into its head, finally defeating it on his own. While resting, he assumes Chioldu has already defeated many such monsters. The weapon Jint uses is a bone knife crafted from crocodile teeth. He sits to consider his own hunting style, but his thoughts are interrupted when a massive wood orc spots him. Jint narrowly evades the first attack. Seeing the creature up close, he realizes it's even larger than Chioldu. As the orc prepares to strike, a powerful object collides with it, toppling it instantly. Before Jint can react, Chioldu appears, having used his new pitch skill to imbue a thrown object with magical energy. Later, they cook the Ostrachosaurus meat. Chioldu is thankful he could rescue his friend, while Jint feels disappointed he couldn't defeat the orc himself. He admits that his wealthy family left him unaccustomed to handling tasks independently. Chioldu offers a piece of meat and reassures him, saying that being weak now isn't shameful. He encourages Jint to train and become a formidable warrior. Jint is struck, noticing how much Chioldu has matured since arriving in Nova. While eating, Chioldu reveals he is actually a barbarian, explaining that his kind differs inherently from humans. Jint is bewildered and repeats the statement, prompting Chioldu to clarify he is a barbarian from another planet. The revelation shocks Jint. He asks if Chioldu means barbarians like the warriors in video games. He realizes he has seen too many strange events for Chioldu to be an ordinary human. Chioldu points out he assumed Jint already knew. Jint stands, shaking his head, insisting there was no way he could have known. Chioldu is stunned while Jint is taken aback by the assumption. The protagonist lets out a small laugh. He says he only wants Jint to stop comparing their progress since they are fundamentally different. The next day, they return to the Holy Pyramid. After paying 2,000 coins, the pyramid activates, granting an initial reward. Jint receives 2 inventory slots and Chioldu gets 5. Jint is excited, wondering if the pyramid contains a subspace, while Chioldu estimates the reward scale from the coins given. Another system alert grants them both a holy blessing, doubling their recovery rate for 24 hours. Feeling revitalized, Jint believes he can now grow stronger and rely less on Chioldu. Suddenly, the previous orc returns with 2 larger allies seeking revenge. Jint instinctively hides behind Chioldu, but the barbarian urges him to fight, empowered by the rewards. Chioldu steps forward, assuring Jint that with a barbarian by his side, there's nothing to fear. Chioldu rushes ahead, planning to intercept the enemy. Jint panics, having expected a joint fight against the horde. Without delay, Chioldu thrusts his spear through one orc, lifting it and slamming it violently to the ground. Another orc appears right behind Chioldu, ready to strike fatally. Fortunately, Jint intervenes just in time. He attacks the monster, drawing its attention. Alone now, Jint struggles as the orc attacks from all sides. He feels as if he's dying, bleeding under the relentless assault. Soon, however, his body begins to glow as he receives the holy blessing. This blessing doubles his recovery rate for 24 hours. Empowered by this new resilience, he starts dodging with renewed focus, driven by the goal of becoming strong enough to be a true companion to a barbarian. Despite his determination, Jint takes a powerful hit that sends him crashing against a nearby tree. Kneeling on the ground, he concedes to himself that he has depended too much on the blessing. Yet he spots a silver lining. He begins to discern a pattern in his opponent's attacks. With resolve, he charges, anticipating the orc's downward swing. Dodging the deadly strike by a hair, Jint leaps and drives his knife into the enemy's throat, finally defeating it. Chioldu acknowledges this achievement. While Jintai admits he is gradually mastering the situation, he is stunned watching the protagonist effortlessly take down the other 2 orcs with just a spear. A system notification appears for Chioldu, confirming he has gained the spear mastery skill. He feels pleased to acquire a new skill from the weapons taken from foes. Jinti notes this seems similar to how he obtained his production skill. The idea of learning skills just by wielding different weapons excites him. Eyes shining, Chioldu asks Jint if he has recovered yet. Jintai immediately immediately realizes that the warrior is ready to continue the hunt. Pointing to a set of tracks, Childu follows them toward what he suspects is an orc hideout. Hoping to discover weapons beyond spears, the duo soon locates the orc village and takes cover in the bushes. Nearby, two scouts whisper to each other, remarking that their army would have secured the area already if not for these monsters. One scout feels proud to have found the hideout first, while the other urges hurrying back to report. As they prepare to report, a hand startles them, making them scream. It is actually Chioldu appearing behind them. He reminds them to stay silent and comments on their disguises, noting how effective they were almost to the point of not recognizing them. They laugh and gesture toward the enemy territory. These men are actually the protagonist's subordinates. Leader number 1 tells him that if caught, they just want to survive. He advises our hero to leave. Although the barbarian is strong, the orc lord makes this area too dangerous. Number 1 believes an army is needed to handle such a threat. Still, Chioldu's focus is on the gleaming weapon the lord wields. He immediately stands, intent on claiming that axe. He heads to the village with Jintai, ignoring the subordinate's warning. After clearing the surrounding orcs, Koldu confronts the orc lord. He tells Jinti to rest while he personally deals with the leader. Attempting to communicate in the orc tongue, the lord becomes enraged, realizing Chioldu is merely echoing insults he has heard before. The orc lord strikes heavily with his axe. Dodging, the protagonist kicks the lord's armor, but the metal is tougher than expected. Realizing he can't fight unarmed, Yadu narrowly evades another swing. He knows that if it connects, even his ogre skin won't save him. Spotting an opening, he seizes the lord's arm and attempts to wrest the weapon away, lifting the massive orc into the air. As he claims the axe, Chioldu strikes the orc down. A system notification confirms he has gained the axe mastery skill. Subordinates watch in shock, realizing he has truly defeated the orc lord. Jint is equally amazed at witnessing him vanquish such a formidable foe. Number 1 acknowledges Chioldu's incredible strength, likening him more to a monster than a man. Standing over his fallen enemy, the underlings worry about the danger of letting such a force roam unchecked. Despite their concerns, the hero successfully acquires the orc lord's legendary axe. At the military base, Colonel Morin Jang receives a report. It details how Chioldu single-handedly defeated the junior ogre boss during his trial, before annihilating the Yungu clan and the wood orcs on Nova. The colonel wonders why such talent had gone unnoticed until now. The reporter explains it is likely due to his youth, as he is too young for enlistment, learning he is just a high school senior. She closes the file and immediately issues an enlistment order to recruit him, without delay. A soldier cautions that it may not be straightforward, as the boy does not appear to follow orders easily. Colonel Jang insists they must control individuals like him. At that moment, Warrant Officer O arrives. The colonel smiles. She has been eager to see him. Hearing the officer's name, the reporter wonders if she plans to send pursuers after Chioldu. With a grim look, she states they are entering a new era. If the hero resists, they will resort to force. Warrant Officer Jun Hwan. O salutes her as a portal opens in the Chengju disaster zone. Members of the Yangwu clan gather as spectators, noting that the bullies have finally been taken down and remarking that it's well deserved. Some comment that the clan had stolen from them in the past too. Among the onlookers, Chioldu and Jintai watch silently. Seeing everyone's reaction, Jintai realizes the full scope of the situation is known. Changdu shows up and jokes that our hero has now become Nova's champion in Chengju. Meanwhile, Chioldu enjoys being back on Earth and plans to visit his father at home immediately. Just as he starts to leave, a voice calls him back. Second Lieutenant Seung Ai Choi arrives with an offer from the army. Our protagonist is puzzled, while Jin T notices the officer's presence. Seung starts explaining, but without hearing the full message, Chioldu turns to walk away. Chung panics and shouts for him to stop. Shocked by being ignored, she yells that they're offering him a commissioned officer position. Jintai is astonished that he could jump straight to the upper ranks, but Chioldu shows no interest. Seung is outraged. Her subordinate reminds her that someone like him is hard to handle. The subordinate insults Chioldu as a brash high schooler and delivers a kick. The man is actually Officer O, who asks if our hero is ready to discuss matters now. Before Chioldu can react, O launches a rapid sequence of kicks. Feeling the force behind the blows, Chioldu acknowledges that the man is extremely strong and fast. Officer O teases him, calling him a novice compared to Neosol fighters, a term unfamiliar to Chioldu. O continues, urging the boy to accept his duty and asserting he deserves to guide him once he enlists. Chioldu realizes the true powerhouses reside on Nova. He thinks defeating a soldier of this caliber would have been impossible without his own growth. When O requests a decision, our hero laughs, noting the officer's big-shot appearance from Nova. Chioldu enters combat mode, determined to fight with all his strength since he has no plans to enlist. Officer O finds him amusing until Chioldu attacks from a new angle, asking if he finds that cute too. With fierce resolve, Chioldu delivers heavy punches, forcing the officer onto the defensive. O struggles to comprehend the source of this power. Chioldu continues the assault without retreating, surprising him, as he had assumed this was the boy's first Nova encounter. Yet he cannot defend against any attack, motivated by his pride. O charges to counter, only to be struck down by a powerful knee from the boy. He bleeds and crashes to the ground. Number 1 wonders eagerly if their leader has won the fight. While Jinti notes the combat is superhuman, Shing rushes to aid the fallen officer. Chioldu comments that the fight was decent and leaves, promising they will meet again on Nova. Covering his eyes, marvels at the boy's strength. Shing asks if he's crying, but the officer laughs it off. He jokes about being defeated by a child and stands with her help, vowing to remember the name Chioldu forever. At dinner, Chioldu's father learns the world may be nearing its end. Our hero reassures him, promising protection. Pointing to an orc axe, the elder says he would have doubted the stories if his son hadn't brought such a weapon home. It's possible to transport items from Nova to Earth, though not vice versa. Chioldu invites his father to Nova, but the man refuses. He's proud to see his son charting his own path, and insists his duty remains farming until the end. Chioldu suggests he could farm on Nova too. While drinking, his grandfather sighs, lamenting his limited time and difficulty adapting to a new place. Our hero acknowledges the truth in his words. The planet is perilous, and passing the Doomsday test would be impossible for him. He resolves to bring his father along once he grows stronger. He tells him to wait for the right moment. Suddenly, the bell rings. The old man wonders if someone has arrived, while Chioldu notes the visitor's speed. Later, he studies Nova with Jin T. Most information is censored by the government, labeled as national disaster material. Chioldu observes they're controlling the media to prevent public confusion. This allows insiders to exploit the situation. Jintai recalls the soldier's words about Neosol and explains that Chengju is not the only portal, others exist in different areas. Government and corporations have begun developing Nova. Neosol connects to a portal in Paju, opened 2 years ago. Since 2 years on Earth equals 10 in Nova, Chioldu suspects the area must be full of formidable people. Jintai understands why Neosol is prime for growth, though newcomers won't get activation rewards there because it's already developed. Chioldu realizes staying behind would only hold him back. The group expects better weapons and equipment to be available in this advanced area. After their conversation, Chioldu decides it's time to go. Jint remarks that they don't have a car because his father took it, but Chioldu just laughs, already having a plan. Soon, they find themselves in a car driven by a woman from Chioldu's team. Jang believes our hero made a wise choice. He and his crew are eager to follow Chioldu as their leader, although they still have unfinished business with the remnants of the Yungu clan. Chioldu acknowledges this and tells them to join him once they've wrapped up their matters. The driver wonders if they'll be safe in a place so strongly controlled by the military. Chioldu, however, is determined to eliminate anything standing in his way. The car soon reaches the vicinity of Neosol. Both Chioldu and Jint stand before the colossal portal. Jint wonders what lies beyond, but Chioldu isn't concerned with the view. His only focus is getting stronger. Jint is in awe of Neosol's landscape. Despite the city being only a decade old, it's far beyond what he expected. It appears as advanced to him as the peak of the Joseon dynasty. Chioldu, too, is impressed by the development. Their thoughts are interrupted when a middle-aged woman shouts for help, pointing to a thief causing chaos nearby. As the thief rushes toward them, he demands they clear the way. To his surprise, Chioldu grabs the thief by the face and slams him into the ground. He feels a surge of excitement at the thought of battling new opponents in this city. Later, he and Jint enjoy a meal provided by the woman, who is grateful for the recovery of her monthly savings. As Jint eats, he comments on how civilization has its perks, remembering the days when he had to survive by eating crocodile meat. Meanwhile, Chioldu has already devoured a dozen bowls. The woman tells them to eat as much as they want since the meal is free. While eating, Chioldu downplays the whole ordeal, urging the woman to contact him if she ever faces trouble again. He then returns to his meal with vigorous energy. The woman breathes a sigh of relief. However, she mentions that the village is frequently attacked by raiders despite the soldiers' presence. When Jint asks if this happens often, she nods. She explains that as Neosol's population grows, the situation has gotten worse. With fewer monsters to hunt, the strong have begun targeting the weak. This news only excites Chioldu further, as he looks forward to turning these villains into his prey. The woman suggests they acquire the discovery skill before engaging in any more battle. When Chioldu inquires about the skill, she realizes they are newcomers. She explains that the discovery skill is essential in this region and can be gained by hunting eagle owls in the local area. This skill grants someone the ability to inspect the traits of others. Jint becomes thrilled, realizing they can finally review their own stats. Our hero rises to his feet, immediately ready to hunt the owls but noticing they have no weapons. The woman advises them to arm themselves first. Eventually, the pair leaves the leather shop wearing their newly acquired armor, though they still lack proper weapons. Following her guidance, they arrive at the Yongho workshop, reputedly run by a master craftsman. A drunken man appears behind them, asking what brings them here. Childu says they need weapons, while Jint is irritated by the strong smell of alcohol. The drunkard passes, pointing out they are unarmed. Jintai inquires if the blacksmith accepts custom requests, having heard he can make anything. Calling them naive, the drunk reveals that most workshops in Neosol have disappeared. When the boy asks why, the blacksmith explains iron is scarce now because bandits captured the mines on Abang Mountain. Childu asks if these thieves also robbed ordinary people. The smith confirms this, adding that the gang is led by the Big Three. The main leader, Jang, is a terrifying man who kills anyone in his way. He carries a bounty of 100,000 goblin coins. His gang is so dangerous that the army is powerless. A full-scale battle would throw Neosol into chaos, which only excites our hero more. Summoning his orc axe, he asks if the blacksmith will return to work if Hokal is defeated. The man recognizes the weapon instantly, amazed at how the boy obtained it, but Chioldu demands a direct answer. The blacksmith consents, promising to craft any weapon they desire once the workshop reopens. The protagonist tells him to sober up in the meantime. Vowing to defeat the Abang Mountain bandits, the pair sets off on their journey toward peace. As they walk, Jintai questions the need for another weapon when the axe is so strong. Childu explains different foes require different combat approaches. Preparation is essential. Jintai understands but worries about the large number of fighters in the area. He fears they won't even reach an owl, and complains that things were simpler at the Chengju portal. Our hero quickly comes up with a plan. Using his pitch skill, he throws a small rock that hits an owl dead-on, knocking it unconscious immediately. However, he admits he was aiming for another target he had sensed. From the fallen owl, he acquires the discovery skill. This allows him to examine abilities. He checks his own status window. Noticing his traits and skills, he is surprised to see he has the fairy's blessing. This is puzzling since barbarians and fairies are natural enemies. His thoughts are interrupted when Jint asks him to check his stats. Our protagonist sees nothing and tells his friend to improve his effort. Nearby, two fighters observe them from the shadows. First, Sergeant Yangsu Kai and Captain Junseop Choi. The captain is bleeding. The rock Childu threw was meant for him. But the owl unintentionally blocked the path, leaving Junseop with only a minor scratch. He wonders if the hero sensed them. Recalling that Childu previously defeated Officer O Junseop decides he wants to recruit the boy. Youngsu watches the duo moving toward Abang Mountain. Junseop sweats, convinced they are walking to their doom. The pair soon enters bandit territory. The outlaws see them and mock their bravery for trespassing. Seeing the orc axe, greed fills the gang. Their leader, Chil Jang, watches eagerly, ready to start the hunt. They soon spot Abang Mountain, apparently the location the blacksmith mentioned. Childu remarks they've walked a long way without encountering any bandits. His friend nervously asks if he is truly capable of handling them, noting the bandits' reputed strength. However, our hero reassures him that he won't lose to fools and adds that he wants to test his skill. Suddenly, he notices danger. With rapid reflexes, he deflects incoming arrows. He detects several enemies in the forest. Seeing them retreat and realizing the fog is thick, Childu recognizes a trap and shouts for Jint to take cover behind him. As Jint hides, our hero activates the ogre's skin skill, using his tough hide to shield his friend from a hail of arrows. Recognizing the escalating danger, he commands his friend to retreat immediately. He warns that shaking off their pursuers will not be easy, or escaping this forest will be difficult, and the longer they run with their backs turned, the greater the peril. Jintai notices a cut from an arrow that grazed. Earlier, Chioldu had started to turn green, a sign that the weapon was poisoned. He merely grins, admitting he had let his guard down for a moment. Even Ogre's tough skin cannot resist the arrow's poison. Jint, enraged, calls him a fool and asks how he can laugh at such a dangerous moment. Chioldu insists that Jin T won't be able to handle this fight and tells him to leave immediately. When Jintai asks if he'll be alright, Chioldu warns him not to underestimate him, reminding his friend that he is a barbarian. As Jintai runs off to get help, Chioldu eagerly heads into battle against the forest bandits. After several clashes, night falls, yet he continues to defeat his enemies without pause. The poison spreads, making his body sluggish and unresponsive, but with the resolve of a barbarian, he keeps fighting. He continues taking down bandits, leaving them shocked that he remains standing despite the venom coursing through him. Enduring the pain, Chioldu decides not to prolong the fight. He cuts through the bandits and makes a swift escape. He soon reaches the mountain's base, thinking he might be safe, but halts suddenly at the edge of a massive pit. At the precipice, he is confronted by the bandit leader, Jang, who remarks on the havoc the warrior has caused. Exhausted and poisoned, Chioldu realizes he has been led into a trap on purpose. Amused, Hokale comments that Chioldu is a fascinating opponent to hunt. Chioldu asks if this is really hunting, prompting Hakial to mock him. The leader points out that it's impressive he can still move while poisoned. He declares that Chioldu will be crushed as he falls into the pit. Chioldu's vision blurs and his concentration falters. He thinks that an honorable warrior might risk his life, but he remembers he is a barbarian. He refuses to let a dishonorable leader dictate his fate. In a bold move, he leaps into the pit himself, leaving the surrounding bandits stunned. While falling, he curses them. He hits the water at the pit's bottom, wondering if this is the end. Unexpectedly, he finds himself on the bare hills of Valhalla, appearing much younger. He wonders if this is the inner realm of a barbarian, a place his father described for training and healing. He questions why he looks like his childhood self and fears he may be trapped in his past. Soon, he feels a pleasant sensation from small creatures. These are spirits guided by fairies. He remembers that his status window labeled them as a blessing. Although considered curses for barbarians, these spirits have accompanied him since birth, and in his youth, he shared them with friends. Word spread his secret was revealed and his family eventually became outcast. They attempted to flee. He once blamed himself, but his mother reassured him he was not at fault, as the spirits are an inseparable part of him. From then on, he rejected these creatures and his true self. Tears fall as he realizes his soul is trapped in the past. Wiping them away, he resolves to survive, honoring his family's sacrifice. Sitting in contemplation, he wonders if this realm can heal him. He begins controlling his body fully, embracing pain and mastering his mind. Finally, he expels the poison into the water, regains movement, and feels stronger than ever. A sense of relief washes over him as the system shows notifications for poison resistance and confirms a new skill acquired. Emerging from the water, he realizes this is the power of the inner realm. Having survived near death, he moves a step closer to becoming a true barbarian warrior. Filled with energy, Chil looks for a way out of the pit. A breeze guides him toward a path he decides to follow. After moving a large stone, he uncovers a hidden stairway. Descending, he finds a secret dungeon filled with hundreds of gnolls. A system message informs him that clearing the dungeon, including the gnoll boss, will grant a mysterious reward for first-time completion. Seeing this as a golden chance, he readies himself to face the horde with confidence. Meanwhile, Jin-T dashes through the forest, pursued relentlessly by bandits. One finds an opening and attacks from behind. A blade aims to strike Jin-T, but an arrow pierces the attacker, killing him instantly. His rescuers are Sergeant Yang and Captain Choi. Jin-Tai scrambles up quickly, but more bandits soon surround the tree. Yang and Choi prepare for combat as the enemies advance. Captain Choi orders his units into action, and the battle begins in earnest. The two leaders coordinate their troops as the bandits charge, and a fierce fight erupts. Back alongside Kiadu, the warrior has already taken down a large number of gnolls, yet he notices their numbers never seem to dwindle. Even after killing over 100, more continue to appear. He finds this endless flow odd until he catches sight of a different figure moving among them, the gnoll chief making his way through the horde. Finally confronting the leader, our hero reminds himself that the ultimate goal is to take out the chief to stop the attack. Seeing him approach, the chief casts a fire spell toward Kiadu. Quickly, he activates Ogre's skin for protection and prepares a chance for a counterstrike. He throws his weapon with precise skill, though the gnoll chief blocks it with his staff. Kiadu uses the distraction to leap high into the air. The chief doesn't realize he's above him until it's too late. Kiadu lands a devastating strike, smashing the monster into the ground. After the battle, he retrieves both his axe and the gnoll chief's staff. Following barbarian custom, he decapitates the fallen leader to officially clear the dungeon, triggering a cascade of system notification. He earns the boss emblem, granting the ability to form a tribe and claim territories in key regions. Additionally, he receives the Guardian's great staff for being the first to conquer the challenge. Kiadu also activates the world map. Curious about its effect, he notices a strange energy forming on his arm. It solidifies into a permanent emblem, giving him access to a map that currently only shows places he's already visited, like Neosol and Abang Mountain. The rest of the world is hidden, yet he becomes thrilled at the thought of exploring unknown lands. Suddenly, a red alert warns that the dungeon is closing. The system instructs him to evacuate before flooding begins. Water rushes in, prompting Kiadu to gather dropped coins and ability stones before escaping. Later, he surfaces back in the pit, pondering how to scale the slick wall. As he searches for a hole, he hears a familiar voice above. It's Jint. Kiadu waves and calls out. Tearful, Jint is relieved to see him alive and lowers a rope. Kiadu feels comforted witnessing his friend keep his promise. Once on top, Jint asks if he's unharmed. Kiadu laughs, assures him he's fine, and shows off his new tattoo. Nearby, the captain and sergeant worry about their next move, now that they've been spotted. The captain decides to follow Kiadu, as their orders are to observe and protect him. He insists on concealing their military roles, knowing Kiadu dislikes soldiers. Jint introduces them as the ones who saved him. Kiadu concludes they are trustworthy. The soldiers introduce themselves, claiming they are merely college friends. He quickly assesses them with his skills, noting their strength. The soldiers sweat, fearing he sees through their cover. Unexpectedly, Kiadu asks if they're also targeting the bandits. Seeing a way out, the captain nods, claiming a personal vendetta. When asked for details, the pair starts to panic. Desperate, the sergeant admits he lost his mother to the bandits. Kiadu sympathizes, acknowledging they helped Jin. He calls himself Big Bro Kiadu and pledges to aid in their revenge. Confused, the captain questions why he uses that title. Since they're 31 years old, Kiado lies that he's 32. This annoys the soldiers, who know he's still in high school. Regardless, he reassures them, smiling, promising to deliver Chil Jang's head to the sergeant's mother. The sergeant freezes, silently apologizing for the fib to his mother. Captain Choi recalls hearing rumors. He knew Kiado was competitive, yet he hadn't expected him to seek a rematch with Chil Jang so quickly. He asks Kiado about the next step, addressing him as Mr. Kiado, which clearly displeases him. Kiado intimidates the soldier into switching to Big Brother. With a softer expression, he outlines the plan. First, they will scout to locate the hideout, then launch a direct assault to eliminate Chil Jang. He stands confident, deeming the plan flawless. The captain offers a suggestion. Kiado nods, addressing him as little brother. Though annoyed by the title, the captain stays professional and points out that searching is unnecessary. The enemy base sits atop the mountain. In disbelief, our protagonist wonders how the captain knows this. The captain simply grins, claiming he did some digging in preparation for his revenge. Acknowledging this, our hero resolves to make his way straight to the peak, stating that true warriors confront their foes directly. As they ascend, they are swiftly attacked by bandits. The four of them display remarkable prowess, effortlessly defeating the assailants, even after being struck by several poisoned arrows. Chioldu keeps fighting, his body now immune to the poison. He slices through the bandits one after another until the fight is over. Jint finds his newfound resistance ability amazing. Behind them, the sergeant whispers to his captain that although Chioldu is reckless, he's managed to get this far on his own. The captain observes that at this rate, the hero might really be capable of taking down Chil Jang. The land is currently split between three forces: the military-controlled Neosol to the southwest, the bandits of Mount Obeng to the northeast, and the cavalry raiders in the northern wasteland. The army has been unable to defeat the bandits due to Chil Jang's nimble strategy. Furthermore, losing too many troops in a small-scale conflict would leave Neosol exposed to the raiders. More crucially, if Major Lei, one of the top three, were to be harmed, it would mean the city's downfall. Captain Choi realizes that if Chioldu were to defeat the bandit leader, it would be a huge gain for the military. Suddenly, Chioldu falls to his knees, alarming the group. They notice his body is burning with fever, covered in deep red blotches. Our hero mumbles that his head has been spinning ever since he used those ability stones. A red system message flashes, warning him that his stone absorption has reached a critical limit. The stones are no longer helping him, they're just making him delirious. The sergeant asks if he accidentally absorbed too many, and a guilty Chioldu admits that he must have consumed around 30. Stunned, the sergeant explains that this amount is far beyond what the human body can handle. If he continues, his powers will fail, and it could cost him his life. He suggests retreating to the village for medical help, but the captain states it's already too late. They are deep in the bandits' territory, surrounded by hundreds of enemies. One bandit at the front recognizes Chioldu and taunts him for surviving the pit, but our hero immediately throws him to the ground and yells for Chil Jang. From behind, the sergeant insists he's too weak to fight, but Chil Jang himself steps forward. Calling himself the Mountain King, he watches as our hero mocks his selfish nature. Okil comments that the boy managed to climb out of the pit, but he swears to finish what he started this time. He orders his men to deal with the others, while he faces Chioldu himself. With a flail in hand, the leader charges at our hero, who blocks the attack with his axe. The two clash in a series of heavy blows, until Hakiel finally lands a powerful strike. The impact sends Chioldu hurtling through the air, crashing into a bandit hut. Emerging from the debris, our hero acknowledges the leader's immense strength and wide strike range, which makes it hard to find an opening with an axe. Refusing to back down, he charges again and manages to catch the flail in his axe. Both weapons are discarded in the struggle, and Chioldu, now eager to fight barehanded, engages in a brutal brawl. Jang mocks him, claiming that his weak human body is no match for him. He finds an opening and lands a damaging blow to the waist, but just in time, our hero activates Ogre's skin to reduce the damage. When Chioldu reveals that he isn't entirely human, Jang laughs, saying he was already aware of the ogre's skin ability. Seizing the opportunity, our hero lands a heavy punch on Jang's face, sending him crashing to the ground. To Chioldu's surprise, Jang seems unaffected and activates his own ogre's skin while still lying on the ground. He jokingly calls Chioldu a child and scolds him for disrespecting his elder. As our hero stands dumbfounded by the realization that they share the same ability, Jang takes advantage of the moment. He lands a crushing blow to Chioldu's chin, sending our protagonist stumbling back. The rest of the group, already surrounded by bandits, watches in horror. Jint is particularly terrified, having never seen anyone stronger than Chioldu. The sergeant suggests grabbing the boy and fleeing, but they are completely encircled. The situation worsens as Jang begins strangling Chioldu with brute force, while Jint's attention shifts to his friend. The bandit leaps toward Jint to deliver the killing blow, only for Captain Choi to intervene just in time. The fallen bandit proudly declares their doom. explaining that their leader is using the human squeezer technique. As he tightens his grip on Chioldu's throat, Jang mocks him, asking where his courage has gone. He shares that he has hunted ogres on 2 occasions and he even possesses their skin. His secondary ability is ogre's strength, which allows him to crush stones effortlessly. Jang bellows that he embodies raw power itself. Chioldu starts laughing, ridiculing Zhang's so-called strength. At that moment, Zhang yells that the young man is merely pretending to be strong and applies more pressure to tighten his grip. Still experiencing the overwhelming pressure, our hero feels strange, as if he could throw up any second now. Meanwhile, Zhang continues to squeeze harder and harder. Before long, our protagonist expels all the pressure from his mouth. This leaves everyone in shock. After that, Chioldu feels much more at ease and grins, saying he feels amazing. Meanwhile, the system announces that he has absorbed all the stones. Zhang, irritated, calls him arrogant. He angrily tightens his grip and presses down even harder. The pressure he applies would have torn anyone else apart. Nevertheless, Chioldu manages to slide his arm through and breaks free from the grip. This forces Zhang to release his hold on his waist. Now our protagonist seizes the opportunity and grabs Zhang's arm. In that moment, he performs a legendary arm lock. Leaving Zhang defenseless, Chioldu applies tremendous force to the arm until a bone snaps. Chioldu quickly jumps back, creating some distance, as Zhang howls in agony. Moaning over his broken arm, Zhang's subordinates begin to doubt the situation, wondering if their leader is really being overpowered. Even the companions of our hero are astonished, seeing him take the upper hand after all the pain he had endured earlier. Furious, Zhang curses Chioldu for breaking his arm and vows to kill him. He grabs a weapon and swings it at Chioldu, but our hero swiftly avoids the strike. The weapon crashes into the ground, splitting it open. With an entirely different demeanor, Chioldu dodges the following attacks effortlessly. The captain, who witnessed what Chioldu had gone through earlier, is now stunned by the newfound strength and speed he's displaying. While evading the strikes, Chioldu grabs Zhang's weapon with his left hand. With his right hand, he seizes Zhang's throat, choking him despite his ogre skin and strength. Zhang struggles but cannot break free from Chioldu's powerful grip, which only tightens. Our protagonist manages to lift the huge man off the ground and mocks him for boasting about being the epitome of strength. Struggling for breath, Zhang begs to be released. He is taken aback when Chioldu finally lets him go. However, Chioldu picks up the discarded weapon and declares that it's time to take revenge for Sergeant Yang's mother and the people of Neosol. Zhang is confused as he watches Chioldu prepare with the weapon. As Chioldu takes his stance, he remarks that he despises those who prey on the weak. He delivers a brutal strike to Zhang's head, instantly knocking him unconscious and defeating him once and for all. Seeing their boss fall, the underlings lose their resolve and immediately contemplate begging for their lives. Meanwhile, Captain Choi is dumbfounded, witnessing Chioldu take down one of the top 3 just like that. Unexpectedly, a treasure sack materializes on top of Yang. This is the ranker's treasure sack, owned by the novice ranker Ho Kial Jiang. Chioldu turns to the underlings and asks if they intend to steal the bag. They immediately beg for mercy, pleading for their lives. With pride, Chioldu announces that he won't punish anyone who is simply following a misguided leader. He then approaches Zhang and collects the dropped treasure sack, however, as if it were the remains of a monster. Zhang's body disintegrates into thin air, leaving Chioldu shocked. The captain explains that this is due to Zhang being a strength ranker. Rankers are considered similar to monsters in classification. When Chioldu inquires about how it works, the soldier elaborates that to be a ranker, one of the 5 skill stats must exceed 50% points. Chioldu checks his own stats and observes that none of them have reached that threshold. This leaves the sergeant further shocked, realizing that Chioldu defeated a ranker using only his physical strength. Choi adds that people may have similar stats but different abilities. They each possess their own unique strength. Chioldu gathers his team and decides it's time to head back. The captain remains in disbelief, pondering how Chioldu defeated Zhang without even being a ranker, and wondering what he will do next. Later, the group arrives in the village and enjoys a meal together. Chioldu bows to Jin Ti. He explains that it was found in the sack and offers the other items to the rest of the group. Noticing his generosity, the captain insists they ought to give something back. Our hero, intrigued, asks what they plan to offer. At first, the captain hesitates to reveal their true identity, but after Chioldu defeated Zhang, he admits they are soldiers from the defense command. He also confesses they had recognized the group right away and apologizes for hiding the truth. However, our protagonist had already suspected their true roles. Jintai even notes it was clear from the way they spoke. Chioldu points out they saved Jinti, so the debt is repaid. He then wonders if they are here to recruit him again. The captain shakes his head, explaining that their mission was merely to follow and protect him until they figured out whether he was an enemy or an ally. When our hero asks what they concluded, the captain calmly reveals that after he wiped out the bandits, they now see him as a friend and a military ally. Captain Choi tells him to report to headquarters the following day to collect a reward for Zhang's demise. Childu, eager for the reward, agrees to go, calling the captain his little brother. The soldiers, irritated, remind him of how much older they are than him, prompting our hero to cheekily call them older little bros. This makes both soldiers furious, to the point where they want to teach him a lesson. The next day at headquarters, an elderly man inquires about the delay of the young assistant and their hero's absence. The assistant replies that Captain Park of the Special Forces is tasked with meeting him. The elder, his face cold, repeats the name Captain Park. Startling the assistant, the subordinate quickly corrects himself, stating he meant Commissioner Park. The elder finally laughs, pleased with the title. This man is Major General Junpil Park, head of Neosol Defense Operations. Soon after, he is informed that Chioldu and Jint have arrived, prompting him to order their escort. Upon seeing our hero, the general comments on the strong presence he exudes. He welcomes the young man while explaining his position in the army. Our protagonist asks if he is the leader of Neosol. Amused by the question, the elder wonders if Chiadu enjoys role-playing as well. They sit to discuss matters, with the general thanking him for saving the people of Neosol. He mentions the bounty and then proposes a deal. Our protagonist, suspicious, warns that if the deal involves military service, he'll refuse. The general laughs, assuring him that enlistment isn't part of the offer. Instead, he wants Koldu to form his own mercenary group with full military support. The general suggests this will allow him to build the tribe he has always dreamed of. This entices our hero, as it would be a mercenary group free from military red tape. He asks how much support they are willing to offer. The general promises access to the base, Neosol's infrastructure, armory, and even the restaurant's hot soups. Koldu, thrilled by the mention of hot soups, eagerly agrees, seeing it as a great benefit. The general assures them that food and battle gear will also be supplied. Tempted by the offer, our boy asks what they expect in return. The general explains that the task is simple: eliminate unwanted enemies. The first target is the horseback raiders. Childu is puzzled by the name, but Jin T clarifies that this group is one of the three main powers in control. They question how they could possibly take them down. Suddenly, a voice from behind a curtain mocks them for panicking before the fight has even started. A stunning young woman steps out, asking how they plan to defeat the horseback raiders when they don't stand a chance. Both our hero and Jin T focus on her. She steps forward, feigning ignorance of who they are, and asks how they dare touch what belongs to her. Our protagonist, meeting her gaze with his usual poise, confidently introduces himself. Unexpectedly, the girl unsheathes her sword. She remarks that he's brave to speak to her in that manner, holding her blade to his throat with a serious look. She suggests someone needs to teach him respect. This woman is the finest swordmaster of Joseon. Now, with her blade pressed against Chioldu's neck, our hero, unfazed, asks who he should show respect to if that person is threatening him with a weapon. Realizing her mistake, she lowers her sword and reveals herself as Major Yun Lee, a 22-year-old officer, claiming the seniority of her age. She demands he call her Major Lee. However, our hero, teasing, opts to call her by her first name. This enrages her and she despises his casual tone. But Childu points out that it's just a normal way to greet someone. She draws her sword again, warning if he intends to keep provoking the swordmaster of Joseon. Our protagonist simply responds, stating she only managed to take the title while he was absent. Tension builds between the two, both growing more frustrated until a confrontation seems unavoidable. However, the general steps in, interrupting the standoff and offering Chioldu some snacks, which immediately diverts his attention. The general pulls Lee aside to scold her for her actions. She tries to justify herself, claiming that the protagonist cannot be trusted. She also reminds the general of her wish to take full responsibility for dealing with the raider. The general urges her to let go of that idea, explaining that defeating the bandits will require more than just her effort. A memory surfaces for Yun. She's about to strike a northern bandit, shouting at him, asking why he had let her win as he resigned himself to defeat. He simply remarked on how much she had grown. In her anguish, she demanded an explanation, but her former mentor explained his defeat was a farewell gift to an old student. Rather than finishing him off, Lee redirected her blade and turned away. The northern bandit leader remarked that her heart remained soft despite his teachings on being merciless for Neosol. He pointed out that despite everything, she still had compassion. She refused to accept a victory handed to her by a traitor, asserting that the army would take care of the swamp bandits instead. Back in the present, she pleads with the general to allow her to handle the raiders alone. The general holds her firm and shares that he has a plan. Turning to the protagonist, the general reveals his strategy. Chioldu's mercenary group will join forces with the army to strike the raiders together. These bandits are a major threat to Neosol, and their swift cavalry makes them difficult to catch. The protagonist becomes enthusiastic at the mention of the unit. He asks if he can keep the horses if they are victorious. Remembering his father, the greatest rider from the Barbarian lands, he realizes he has always aspired to follow in his father's footsteps. he agrees to the mission. The general expresses his gratitude, sealing the agreement, but Chil insists on one point of clarification first. He stands in front of Lee and they lock eyes. Our hero says that the chain of command needs to be clarified. She accepts his challenge. They head to the training grounds at the headquarters. Jintai asks how he plans to fight, and the protagonist declares he will use a sword. Jint is taken aback, as he's never seen him wield one before, but the protagonist comments that the principles of all weapons are the same. He pulls Jang's backpack from the system, and Jin T eagerly waits to see a legendary weapon, noticing that Lee's sword looks intimidating. Chioldu is busy searching for a rusty sword he saw earlier. He insists that only amateurs blame their weapons and proudly pulls out the worn blade. He declares himself a seasoned warrior. The general is stunned that he intends to use such a blade against the finest swordmaster in the land. He asks Lee if a real sword is necessary, but she refuses to use anything fake. She finds our hero arrogant and wants to teach him a lesson. Her fiery resolve only fuels our protagonist's excitement. He sarcastically offers her the first strike. She charges, saying she will teach him the way of the sword. But our hero simply counters and their blades meet in a clash. Spotting an opening, he declares that it's his turn and strikes. Lee dodges and reappears behind him, mocking his speed as sluggish. The two exchange a rapid series of blows. Watching her movements, Chioldu realizes she's not just fast but incredibly skilled. Lee compliments our hero's defense before preparing a devastating finishing blow using mana. She lands a powerful strike and follows with a relentless barrage of blows. However, our protagonist holds firm, blocking her furious onslaught with ease. Suddenly, the system notifies him that his fencing skills are advancing. He has unlocked the sword mastery ability with newfound confidence. Our protagonist asks if she's ready for a higher level of combat. Instead of defending, he begins to impose his rhythm on the fight. Matching her speed, he catches her off guard. In an instant, our hero vanishes from her sight. She is left stunned, unable to track him with her advanced vision. Suddenly, he reappears beside her with a smirk, claiming victory in their speed contest. He strikes, and though Lee blocks the blow, the force sends her flying back. Regaining her footing, she vows to target his weak spot. She alters her attack strategy, but Chioldu, using his own enhanced vision, mockingly blocks her strike, surprising her with his sudden leap in power. While she's distracted, our hero presses his blade against her neck. She stands frozen, unable to believe she's lost to a beginner. With great pride, Chioldu declares himself the overall victor of the duel. At the military base supporting the mercenaries, Koldu looks on with satisfaction at the scene before him. Sergeant Yang quietly tells Miss Lee to refer to our protagonist as Chief Child. She agrees but wonders why Yang calls him Big Brother. Yang dismisses it, mentioning that the connection is rather complicated. Turning toward Choldu, she inquires about his plans for the bandits captured the previous day. With a chilling look, he confidently says that he has a plan that will send a shiver down their spines. Earlier that day at the training grounds, our protagonist demanded Lee call him Big Brother. She replied she would rather die than do so. He sternly asked if she was speaking back to her superior, eventually forcing her to reluctantly call him Big Bro. Even after that, he continued to tease her. At a distance, the general watches in disbelief, astonished by how Koldu effortlessly defeated Josian's top swordsman. He fears that if his subordinates had seen it, their spirits would have been crushed. Surprisingly, the soldiers' reaction is entirely different. They cheer for the protagonist, making the general question where their loyalties lie. The remaining bandits are soon presented to the general. His assistant reports that these are the captured men from the mountain. The general had not anticipated Ho Chiu Jang gathering such a large group. Due to the sheer number of prisoners, there isn't enough space in the cell. The assistant mentions they've already executed those responsible for serious offenses. However, the others can't be sent back to Earth due to the presence of biome superhumans in Nova. Unexpectedly, our protagonist offers to take them in. He explains that he needs mercenaries and believes they could prove useful. Koldu insists that some of them must have potential and decides to only keep the ones he prefers. Facing the group, he asks if they remember him and gives them a chance to confront him. Those who survive will earn their right to live. He then challenges them to attack him all at once. Koldu cracks his knuckles as the bandits are left stunned by this brutal approach to survival. Taking advantage of their numbers, they plan a coordinated strike, even though they already fear the inevitable. Our protagonist soon praises their bravery. Only 60 of them step forward, while many others stay back. He thanks his new recruits and raises his fist for a friendly bump with the general. He casually calls him by his first name, which leaves the general shocked. This causes surprise among Lee and the nearby soldiers. Lee visibly reacts with discomfort. However, to her surprise, the general is actually touched by being addressed so familiarly. Back in the present, our protagonist reveals his plan to transform these bandits into a disciplined mercenary force. He finds the idea strange, pointing out that they're criminals and turning them into mercenaries seems impossible. Jin-T agrees, questioning whether such men can be trusted, but Koldu reminds him that the 5 members of the Yungu clan were also once criminals, asserting that trust grows naturally in the heat of battle. Jin-T becomes anxious. He wonders how he was supposed to know that history, but our hero reassures him that, as the vice captain, he's capable of handling it. Standing before the bandits, our protagonist declares that their past crimes no longer matter. They are now his mercenaries, and he asks if anyone objects. The former bandits respond in unison, voicing no objection. Captain Choi is astonished by their newfound discipline, while Lee observes that Koldu, already formidable, has now assembled his own forces. This makes him even more dangerous. She advises the captain to keep a close watch on him and report back. A week later, Koldu is reported to the general as a potential threat to the government. The general finds the accusation ridiculous, but the reporter clarifies that it originates from Colonel Morin, the same officer who sent Warrant Officer O to capture Koldu. Holding the report, the general realizes it's just personal resentment from Morin for failing to recruit him. The reporter suggests calming the government's nerves. The general agrees, acknowledging they can't have the state hunting their mercenary. He wonders how they can legitimize Koldu's squad. Just then, soldiers arrive with a report detailing the man's latest action. They present a scroll with the information. The general worries that the protagonist is already stirring up trouble, but the report tells a different story. Koldu forced the mercenaries to build a cabin overnight. Afterward, he began rigorous training with his squad. He fought all 60 of them by himself. He doubled the training intensity for those who showed hesitation, and severely punished anyone attempting to flee. Through this demanding approach, the former bandits were transformed into something completely new. The night before the raid, the mercenaries are ordered to take a break, while Chioldu goes to the forge to reclaim his axe. More crucially, he activates a tribal chief emblem, letting him establish a tribe within a designated area. He clicks confirm on the system window and assigns a name to his mercenary unit, Ironhead. The tribe limit is set to 200 members. Everyone celebrates that he has at last turned the men into true fighters, yet Koldu plans to reshape the squad into a complete warrior tribe. The general is stunned that our hero acquired the emblem so fast, since it is normally restricted to the ranker's shop. Captain Choi says he received it as payment for conquering a newly discovered hidden dungeon. It also awarded him a world map. The general calls the prize astounding, pointing out that the chief emblem protects the group from government meddling. His aide adds that the emblem makes the mercenaries traceable. If a bandit attempts to flee, the captain's map will reveal their position. The general thinks this should be sufficient to convince the government, and he is eager to see how the coming raid plays out. When night falls, Chioldu chooses a spot and sets up camp for the evening. Lee is anxious about confronting the raiders again, questioning whether she truly has it in her to beat them. Before long, our protagonist comes over and asks if she wants to eat, but she insists she is not hungry. He urges her to eat properly so she will have strength for the fight. She is left startled by what seems like genuine concern. Despite being the finest swordmaster, no one has ever looked after her like this, and an unfamiliar feeling stirs inside her. For an instant, Chioldu makes her think of her mother. But to her shock, our protagonist says it is too bad she will not eat, then starts eating her portion himself. She realizes his kindness was only a ploy to steal her meal. Enraged, she snaps at him to stop touching her food and eat his own. Yet he has already devoured it. Suddenly, our boy rises when he spots something far off, making Lee demand to know what is going on. Our protagonist says he can hear something and grips his axe. Meanwhile, high on a nearby mountain, the raider band runs into a pack of monsters. Their commander orders his men to wipe them out, barking that the creatures cannot keep up with their speed. He shouts for them to prove the might of the horseback raiders. The leader is Chunbai Kim, one of the so-called Big Three. The fight erupts at the mountain's base as the raiders collide with green-skinned monsters. Their leader surveys the turmoil, hunting for the boss, and once he finds it, he drops it with a lightning-fast spear thrust. That seals their win, and he immediately calls his men back into formation. What he does not realize is that Chioldu is watching from above on the mountain. Our protagonist calls out the leader by name and boldly declares he is here to put these men down. He lands with flair right in front of them. The raider chief demands to know who he is, and our hero gives his introduction. He also says he intends to kill the man and claim his horses, since he is captivated by the animal. The leader says he has heard stories about him, especially that he is the one who wiped out the bandits on Mount Oban. He urges the young man to listen, admitting this operation was probably a military directive, but asking why someone as skilled as Chioldu would throw in with people like that. Smiling widely, our protagonist brushes it off as ridiculous. He insists he is only delivering punishment to thieves, then charges at his foe with his axe. But the leader blocks with his spear and says they are not thieves, claiming they have never taken from anyone as he prepares to strike back. He maintains that the horseback raiders are simply explorers. Gripping the spear, our boy says that is not what the reports told him. He adds he cannot accept the man's claim on words alone. Chunbai, meanwhile, is shocked that Chialdu can restrain the spear through sheer strength. Realizing his opponent outclasses him, he lets go of the weapon, thinking the raiders will be doomed if the fight drags on. Our hero presses the axe to Chunbai's throat. The leader says that if he will not trust the truth, he can take his head, but warns that he would be killing an innocent man. Chioldu hesitates, caught in conflict, wondering if he might truly be about to kill someone blameless. He remembers that when he killed Jang, something felt wrong then too, making him question whether he should believe this man. He needs proof that he is doing the right thing. Just then, Lee arrives with the mercenaries. She yells at our protagonist for coming by himself and being reckless, though she notes he at least managed to seize the traitor. Our boy tells her to hold on because he wants to verify what is going on. He demands answers about the horseback raiders. Lee looks a bit uneasy, but says that if she remembers correctly, they are regarded as dangerous. She says Chunbai is a traitor who used to be a soldier like the rest. Frequently disagreed with Chief Park about the direction Neosol should take. In the end, Kim left the military and created an opposition group, making them the prime target for government elimination. Our protagonist inquires if this means they pose a real threat but are not actually criminals. She clarifies they have a negative image, yet nothing formal has been documented, nor has any harm been reported. However, Kim holds inside information about the military, making him a danger. Kim calls out to Lee, stating they have never misused data or attacked Neosol. He pleads with her not to ignore the truth. Watching the exchange, Holdu is surprised by how calm Kim remains, even with his life at risk. Kim then asks if the protagonist has finished judging him and if he is finally going to be executed. He adds that if his death proves his innocence, all he asks is for his men to be spared. Our protagonist is taken aback by Kim's willingness to sacrifice himself for his subordinates. After a moment of thought, he decides not to kill him. Major Lee is stunned by this decision, but our protagonist explains that since they are not criminals, killing them would make him no different from Jang. However, he refuses to leave empty-handed and demands information about where to find horses in exchange for their lives. Kim chuckles, noting that our protagonist really knows how to get what he wants. He agrees and shares an important detail. He explains that Neosol horses cannot be easily tamed like land animals. The only way to control them is by acquiring a pet pouch, which allows one to hold creatures from Nova. He presents the red-rooted patsni, the first material required to craft the pouch. When Chaldu asks where to find it, Kim replies that it won't be a simple task. Soon, our protagonist arrives at the ogre's lair and notices one walking ahead. He realizes that he has never seen an ogre this large before, but he grows excited and charges at the creature with his axe. He strikes, but the ogre easily deflects the blow with its immense strength. The creature swings its club, and the force is so strong that even after our hero dodges, the weapon crashes through trees. He acknowledges the monster's power just as it lands a punch to his stomach, sending him flying back. Using his axe, he manages to save himself by anchoring it into the ground. He then activates Ogre's skin after feeling that heavy blow. Our protagonist recognizes the power of Kim's team, who were able to defeat such creatures on their own. The ogre starts swinging its club once more, but Koldu easily avoids each strike. At that moment, our hero focuses on his axe, which begins to radiate a strong aura. He strikes the club with his glowing weapon and is pleased that the outcome exceeds his expectation. The day before, the blacksmith had used his guardian staff to enhance the axe, and our protagonist had wondered if the weapon had gained new abilities. The blacksmith confirmed that it was now infused with magic, explaining why his attacks had become so much more powerful. Now called the axe imbued with Guardian's power, the weapon had turned red due to the magic. With this new tool, both offense and defense were much easier. When he activates weapon magic, he can disrupt an opponent's movement by using the rotational force generated from a parry. He applies even more strength and successfully defeats the ogre, proving that even the ogre's tough hide can't withstand it. After its defeat, the ogre drops an orb. Chaldu grabs it, and the system identifies it as the ogre's ability orb. This orb grants the user the ability to perform one of the creature's special abilities. Overjoyed, our protagonist crushes the orb and gains the ogre's strength, allowing him to wield the might of a giant, enhanced by magic. Jin Ti stands within the mimic's cave, surrounded by endless treasures and chests. The cavern also holds the raw materials needed to craft a mascot. The team members ask their sub-captain if they should begin opening them. All the treasures are in sight, but he cautions them to stay alert. Out of every 10 chests, 9 imitates one. They ignore his warning, which leaves Jintai feeling slightly irritated. He wishes someone more courageous had shown up. He remembers talking with Choldu, recalling when he chose to hunt the ogre alone, splitting their forces. Jinti asked if Lee would enter the cave, but she outright refused. She said there was no reason for the army to assist while their mission was paused. opting instead to return and report to the general. Thinking back on this, Jintai feels a twinge of fear at the idea of being alone there. Still, he reminded himself he is the sub-captain and capable. Chioldu encouraged him, saying that with proper leadership, the cave would be manageable. This boost gave Jintai confidence to take on the challenge. Back in the present, Jintai leads his troops with strong determination. He plans for the vanguard to identify the true treasure chests. Meanwhile, archers will destroy the decoys. He shouts to commence their search. By evening, Kim orders them to set up camp and wait for the mercenaries. Later, he surveys the site with a companion. The companion questions if Kim is certain, after revealing the horse information so easily. They warn that if the military learns how the horses are tamed, trouble could follow. Kim replies they must simply find another path to power. He acknowledges that they cannot monopolize the horses forever. Eventually, others will uncover the method. The companion notes that even if they do, materials remain difficult to acquire, especially those from the ogre. Kim asks if his companion truly believes this, though he suspects our hero will face no issue. After nightfall, Chioldu arrives at the camp with Jintai. Kim asks if everything has been collected. Jintai replies it would have taken much longer otherwise, so they split up to speed things up. They then display the gathered item. Jintai collected a significant amount, and Chioldu amassed a large quantity of patsni as well. Everyone is amazed. In a flashback, Jintai received patsni immediately after defeating the ogre. He aimed to defeat as many as possible for maximum gain. Back in the present, Kim curiously asks how he gathered so many. Our hero admits there's no secret. He simply eliminated the ogres and collected the spoil. Kim asks if he did it alone, and when Chioldu confirms, Kim is astonished. Later, a large pot sits over the fire for system checks. Jintai notes that the abandoned alchemist's lab can produce pet pouches. This surprises Chioldu, as the horseback raiders had only recently discovered the lab. Kim explains that in Nova's unknown world, knowledge is power. Explorers find discoveries first. He instructs Jintai to craft a pouch. Chioldu adds the materials, costing 78 coins, shortly after. The pouch opens in a puff of smoke. The system confirms it has been created and added to the inventory. Jintai picks up the pouch, thrilled. He tells Chioldu to handle the remaining ingredients while he fetches a horse at dawn. Later, they have dinner, drinking from a rum container. Kim smiles, noting Chioldu drinks as if it were rum. Jintai explains they can't drink alcohol since they're underage, leaving Kim surprised. He then asks why Kim left the military. Kim, serious, says he simply had different priorities. Chief Park focused on Neosol's security and property. Kim prioritized exploring the city's essence to strengthen it. Their differences couldn't be reconciled, so he left. Jintai asks if he regrets it, but Kim insists he doesn't, claiming he protects the country in his own way. He explains that while Neosol focuses on development, his group manages external threats while exploring. Without power, Neosol could fall to bandits. Jintai highlights the connections among the military, bandits, and horseback raiders, and Kim nods. During the meal, Jintai asks if Kim feels trouble being a true soldier. He points out the military is hunting him. Kim replies that they'll understand eventually. He then leaves, preparing for a long journey the day after tomorrow. Outside, he is surprised to see Lee cloaked nearby. She says she came to ask him something. Reflecting on why he allowed her victory, he mentions that a direct clash would have caused serious injury, weakening Neosol's forces. In disbelief, she snaps at him to stop speaking foolishly. Kim states that Neosol needs a strong leader, someone intimidating enough to deter external threats. Lee comments that it might have been better if he had remained. Kim reminds her that he has his own duties and responsibilities to attend to. He advises her to stay composed and not reveal any vulnerability, as she is the foremost swordmaster protecting the citizens. At dawn, the group arrives at the fields where horses graze. Kim notes that with proper care and patsni roots, the horses become stronger and more enduring. Over time, they bond with their caretakers, amplifying their magical abilities. Jintai comprehends the reason for needing so many roots, though our hero seems slightly unimpressed, finding them too ordinary. Upon closer inspection, Chioldu spots a black and white horned horse, the king of the plains, adorned with iron stripes. It instantly grabs his attention. Jintai remarks on its size, and Kim explains that it is a notoriously difficult beast to tame. This only fuels our hero's excitement. Despite Kim emphasizing that it is more a monster than a horse, Chioldu disregards the warning. He charges forward, insisting that nothing is unattainable. The horned creature senses him coming. Chioldu eagerly anticipates the battle. He commands the beast to become his companion, provoking a defiant squeal. Clearly irritated, Chioldu wonders if the horse has a personal grudge against him. Seeing no chance for a peaceful resolution, he strikes decisively. Grabbing its horns, he mounts the horse, which struggles violently to dislodge him. Acknowledging its power, he delivers a strong blow to its head. The beast finally submits with a subdued expression. Chaldu repeats his command, warning the horse to obey or face repercussions. The creature begins to show emotion. A system prompt appears, offering to register the iron-striped horse as a pet for 15-20 coins. Later, Jintai happily pets his tamed horse, which seems to enjoy the attention. Chaldu asks if this is the horse Jintai tamed. Jintai confirms, revealing it cost only 270 coins. He finds this astonishingly cheap compared to his own mount, which cost over 1,000. Jintai explains it's due to Chaldu taming a higher-level creature. He then inquires about the horse's name. Chaldu has already chosen one. A system window confirms the name Sonata for the rank B iron-striped horse. It possesses skills for running and headbutting and remains even if the owner falls, with potential for revival. Chaldu suggests Jintai name his horse Aban. The group rides across the desert. Kim reflects on the taming, speculating that other beasts might also be tamed. Turning to Chaldu, he notes the surprising feat of taming such a creature. Chaldu thanks him for revealing the pet pouch trick. With the task complete, Kim decides to leave, his goals lying beyond the border. Chaldu asks if the dark areas on the map are locked. Kim affirms, suggesting a game-like mechanism to unlock them. When Chaldu inquires about his plan, Kim declares his intent to defeat the area bosses. Chaldu mentions he already defeated one during the Nova exam, raising concerns about sharing such information. He questions whether it's wise to disclose this, as they could be the first to conquer the zone. Kim laughs, saying he doesn't care about recognition. His priority is the safety of their homeland. Chaldu admires his conviction. Kim prepares to depart, but Chaldu offers him a place in his team. After a pause, Kim declines, citing obligations to others. Chaldu respects his choice, assuring Kim he's welcome anytime he changes his mind. Deep down, he expected this response, but accepts he cannot alter it. The raiders leave, and our hero instructs his squad to return to Neosol. Later, Chaldu and Jintai report to the general, who demands an explanation for refusing the raider mission. Chaldu explains that Kim is innocent, and he cannot bring himself to act like an assassin. The general asserts that such decisions are not his to make alone. However, Chaldu is adamant that they can succeed. He likens Kim to a newborn to emphasize his purity. He asks the general if he would carry out an order to harm a child. The general appears baffled, prompting our hero to clarify that Kim is simply an innocent adventurer, rather than a malicious figure. He believes Kim's innocence is no different from that of a young child, and claims to understand the man better than anyone else. The older man reluctantly agrees, admitting Kim is a kind soul. In truth, the general had been stalling and postponing orders from higher-ups to eliminate him. Our protagonist points out that the general is finally being truthful. The general admits his cowardice and explains that he tried to shift the responsibility onto Chaldu to ease his own conscience. He understands the hesitation because Kim is a good person. Our boy mentions his attempt to recruit Kim, but the man turned him down. General Park acknowledges Kim as someone valuable, but points out that his strong, rebellious nature would be too much for any typical leader to handle. Chaldu reflects on how far he still has to go. The general asks if they are hungry, and Chaldu remarks that it's almost time to eat. He asks if soup will be served, but the general knows that a simple soup won't be enough. He declares that a full meal has been prepared. Jinti is thrilled as the general explains that they deserve a real feast. He then offers them a drink, but Jinti points out that they're still underage. General Park retorts that the new year has started on Earth, so they are now adults and should have their first drink. However, our hero politely declines, wishing to share his first drink with his grandfather back on Earth, though he's still excited about the food. The following day, Chaldu and Jinti venture out alone, leaving their team behind. Jinti expresses concern over the arrangement, but our protagonist is unfazed, saying that he can punish anyone who tries to escape later. Still, Jinti believes they need someone to keep the soldiers disciplined and to train them. They are soon noticed by General Park. The general inspects their horses and learns that they are named Sonata and Aban. He dislikes the names and suggests Grand instead, but both boys find the suggestion awful. Dropping the playful tone, the general reveals that he's also heading back to Earth. He's not returning for family, but because Earth is in trouble and he's been called back. He had been stuck in Nova due to the portals opening only every 5 days. Chaldu inquires about the nature of the problem. Although he isn't supposed to disclose anything, the general reveals that Korea is in turmoil. A coup has taken place in North Korea, led by General Seaki Lee of Goryeo, who claims to come from Nova. As a result, the world now knows that Nova exists. Colonel Morin looks concerned, while Warrant Officer Junwin-Oh remains composed. She comments that the coup in North Korea means the existence of Nova will be revealed to the entire world. Expecting a massive influx of people, O requests to be sent back to Neosol. But the colonel is displeased. She has already assigned him to Earth to round up draft-dodging novices and cannot afford to lose him from their base. Additionally, she is worried about Director Park. His recent strange behavior leads her to fear that there may be a coup brewing in South Korea too. O questions her doubts about Director Park and points to the man's contributions to Neosol. He also reminds her that Chil has proven his worth through action. The colonel wonders why O trusts Chil so implicitly, sensing there's a deeper reason for his loyalty. Internally, O reflects that there's no hidden agenda. In the past, he and Choi cleared all the monsters in the east to safeguard Nova's citizens, earning General Park's gratitude before being tasked with hunting down deserters. O is a man driven by a desire for strength to create a free world. He constantly tested his limits because of his love for Nova. Back in the present, the colonel ends the conversation by refusing to send him back, insisting they focus on national security. Knowing that he belongs to Nova rather than the military, O promptly places his resignation on the table. Morin is taken aback by his decision to leave at such a critical time. O responds that while national power must be strengthened, he believes that power lies in how well a nation utilizes Nova. He claims to know the right person who holds the key to everything. Meanwhile, Chil arrives on Earth. In a car driven by the former thug lady, our protagonist tells her not to call him Big Brother since she's older than him. Jin-T asks how their allies knew exactly when they would emerge from the portal. One member explains that they waited by the portal just in case, although number one had already predicted their arrival. Our hero is content with this and asks about the new business number one open. The lady laughs, noting that the company name will surprise their leader. They eventually reach the new establishment, named Chil Solution. Inside, number one greets Chil with respect. Our main character seems self-assured but expresses doubt about the name, mentioning that it sounds like it's related to legs, and noting that the office is conveniently close to his residence. Number one quickly apologizes, but our protagonist clarifies that it's only his grandfather who would have an issue with it, because the old man has a strong dislike for tough guys. Number one then understands why his men were repeatedly forced to leave the area. Childu asks if his grandfather is around, and number one nods before praising him for hiring 20 people. As number one bows in appreciation, O steps in with an inquisitive look, asking if this is some sort of gangster gathering. Surprise. Our hero recognizes him as the soldier he fought before and notices that his arm has completely healed. Seeing the group of men, O wonders if this is a gang, but Childu explains they're mercenary. O remarks on how much the group has expanded. Our protagonist then offers him a role in the organization. O is taken aback by the unexpected offer, but Childu explains they both know the reason for his visit. Complimenting the young man's sharpness, O shakes his hand and feels the immense strength Childu has gained. Our hero was already in need of someone to keep the mercenaries in line, when O questions how he could offer a job to someone he hardly knows. Childu responds by saying he can tell O is a solid soldier. O finally admits he's no longer in the army and agrees to train the mercenary. After reintroducing themselves, O leaves, promising to meet again in Neosol. Later, Childu's grandfather serves a massive pot of soup. He advises our hero to find a safer place to stay as things on Earth are unstable. Jint explains that it's the new year, and a soldier friend reassured them there's no immediate danger of war, but the grandfather insists there are better places to celebrate. Jint is overwhelmed by the enormous meal, but the proud grandfather brags about his grandson's ability to eat large amounts. Gramps asks if the boys are officially considered adults now that they're asking for alcohol. Our protagonist happily declares that he wants his first drink to be with his grandfather. He recalls the Barbarian ritual, where those who turn 18 are marked as true warriors. Through a special ceremony, Childu wonders if he could be reborn as a true barbarian, though he decides he might not be ready for it yet. As he gets ready to drink, the elder tells him to hold the drink with both hands and bow slightly as a sign of respect. Childu acknowledges the tradition. The grandfather then asks Jint if he's going home. Jint explains that he's an illegitimate son with no family records, sharing a vulnerable story about his situation. Childu immediately offers to take care of Jint's family, which causes Jint to panic and call him crazy. Gramps offers Jint a drink and welcomes him, saying any friend of Childu is like a grandson to him. They all toast to their newfound adulthood. The next morning, Jint feels nauseous from overeating and suggests they rest. However, our hero has already digested his food and insists they go back to Nova. At the portal, they find a crowd of soldiers and civilians. Jint explains that people are gathering to be tested now that Nova is public knowledge. Our protagonist worries about his grandfather, who will need to go through the test despite his fragile health and age. Jint agrees it would be tough, but our hero is determined to find a way to bring his grandfather with them. Later, at the Neosol headquarters, General Park proposes an official alliance. With the frontier now open, competition between countries is growing. The general suggests a contract between the army, mercenaries, and other groups to lead the exploration efforts. Childu signs the document without hesitation. The general comments that he could easily be deceived. But Childu reassures him that there's no cheating among friends. The general warns that South Korea is still catching up to the nations that got a head start. When our protagonist asks who's ahead, Park points to Japan. Our hero suggests they must expand the map quickly to catch up technologically, proposing that defeating field bosses is the way forward. The general is taken aback and asks if he's referring to the Cyclops. Childu is excited to learn that the military already knows the Cyclops location. The general reveals that military intelligence, led by Captain Choi and Sergeant Yang Susu, has already tracked the enemy's position. Our hero is fired up for the mission, and the general confirms that the stage is set for action. After receiving the plan to attack with full force, Childu is determined to strike the Cyclops down with a single, decisive blow. Junhyun-oh is introduced as the new sub-leader of the operations unit and is warmly welcomed by the soldiers. While some seem relieved by his arrival, others are curious about the man who will be leading them. Junhyun-oh greets the troops and formally introduces himself. Our hero then gives Jint an order to stay in charge of housekeeping as usual. They explain that the unit is now managed under a dual deputy leadership system. When Junhyun-oh asks Chialdu about the detailed plans for the operation, our main character exhibits typical laziness and shows no initiative. The newly appointed sub-leader appears taken aback, questioning why he was chosen and showing some self-doubt about his ability. Despite this, the protagonist encourages Zhen Huan to make his own choices, signaling full trust in the sub-leader's judgment. Taking responsibility, Junwon opts to restructure the entire unit. Though he seems relaxed, it's clear he has a strategy. With a sly grin, he begins implementing the changes, warning that the upcoming experience will range from grueling fieldwork to brutal training. Witnessing this, the soldiers start to worry that things are about to intensify. The scene moves to a nighttime street in Osaka, Japan. A young man wearing glasses and headphones looks drained. He remarks on how overwhelming everything has become. Suddenly, a woman bumps into him asking for help, which irritates him. He soon notices a crowd fleeing in panic. Screaming in fear, another man rushes past, urging him to get out. Suddenly, horrifying goblins with glowing red eyes swarm the streets. Panic spreads instantly. The young man stares in shock at the terrifying scene. A blue system screen pops up with the words, Doomsday exam. The objective is to clear the area, gather goblin coins, and reach Nova safely. 5 days later at Neosol headquarters, the general and his assistant discuss the portal opening and the goblin invasion in Japan. The Japanese government has declared a state of emergency in Osaka. However, they are withholding full details. Park grows frustrated, noting that Japan is treating this crisis as an advantage. He points out that ever since the apocalypse began, nations have been vying to colonize Nova, and Japan likely sees this as a way to train novices. The assistant forecasts a rise in Nova's population, and Park realizes Japan is aiming to secure a colonization advantage. Still, he worries about how the portal was opened. He then requests an update on our protagonist. The assistant informs him that Captain Choi and Sergeant Kai departed yesterday and should arrive at their destination tonight. Meanwhile, the mercenaries march in precise synchrony. Junwon orders strict alignment, causing one embarrassed soldier to apologize. Another soldier whispers that Captain Junwon-oh is much cleverer than their usual leader. Unlike Chioldu, who enforces with force, the captain uses psychological pressure, which is far more taxing. Choi remarks that the mercenary corps is stricter than the army and addresses Junwon as Officer O. Junwon clarifies he's retired and prefers to be addressed by name. Choi asks why he returned to active duty after vowing never to come back to Neosol. Junwon explains that initially he thought wearing civilian clothes to punish deserters would be fun, but the excitement faded. When Choi questions if joining the mercenaries was to escape General Park's theatrics, Zhen Huan admits that was partly the reason. Choi observes that the protagonist seems motivated by something. Soldiers shout at each other to keep straight and avoid the sub-leader's scolding. Junwon explains that the unit was chaotic on arrival, requiring him to take charge. He admits life in the mercenary corps is genuinely enjoyable. He wonders if he was ever this active during military service. Choi is pleased with his progress and glances at Shildu, commenting that Junwon is truly a decent person. At that moment, our protagonist orders the team to stop and declares they will camp for the night. Later, inside a tent, he contacts the representatives to review the plan while studying the map. Chioldu notes they will arrive at the target before dawn. Captain Choi explains that hunting a regional boss resembles a dungeon game. The forest is split into central and outer zone, guarded by ogres and gnolls. Chioldu proposes a direct assault, but Choi shakes his head, explaining there are over 100 gnolls. Moreover, a countdown starts as soon as they enter the forest. Choi clarifies that the mission must be completed within the time limit. Otherwise, explorers will be teleported out, just like in a game. The protagonist focuses on rapid tactics and is thrilled to hunt the Cyclops. At sunrise, the squad reaches the site as the system announces the event and starts a 30-minute timer. Jinte leads the main team in an ambush on the forest's left, using the rough terrain to their advantage. Combat is fierce. The soldiers soon encounter relentless gnolls. According to the plan, the main force retreats, while Sergeant Yangsu's squad takes over to engage the gnolls with arrows. After diverting the gnolls' attention, the third group advances toward the heart of the forest where the ogres are waiting. Two colossal ogres emerge. Choi and Junwin brace themselves for the battle, with Choi admitting it's his first time facing such formidable creatures. Jun Hwan wagers on who can defeat the most ogres, and the two take on the monsters with intensity. Meanwhile, our protagonist races through the ravine on Sonata, with only 20 minutes left to reach the target. He accelerates. Suddenly, he discovers the iron-striped horse skill, which activates automatically as he clears the ogres in his path. The system notifies him that he has also unlocked the mounted combat skill. Chioldu hurries, arriving at the forest's core with just 2 minutes remaining. He notices the boss is absent. Upon touching a tree, he realizes he has entered a holy ground. The tree shines radiantly, releasing a tremendous surge of energy. A message appears explaining that this is the world tree, which will evaluate their qualification. A vortex of energy forms and a gigantic, imposing creature emerges from the whirlpool. The boss finally shows itself. It is the Cyclops. Chioldu is taken aback as he faces his enormous foe. The Cyclops strikes with great force, splitting the earth beneath it. Chioldu observes the attack's vast range, making it dangerous. He counters with his axe. The weapons clash, but our hero quickly realizes that despite his efforts, the giant seems unfazed. Frustrated that his attacks are ineffective, he wonders if the monster's sheer size is the issue. He ponders that fighting from a distance isn't useful against such a giant opponent. Determined, he decides to close in and target its leg. He unleashes a powerful blow but strikes it squarely, only to see it barely scratch the surface. He realizes that the creature's leg remains unaffected by his attack. Our protagonist realizes that it's not due to the ogre-like toughness of the creature, but rather its sheer size that prevents proper damage. Recognizing the difficulty of the fight, he adapts his strategy to focus on relentless axe strikes. Chioldu begins landing consistent hits. The giant remains stationary as our hero notes that landing blows up close is impossible with such a long weapon. Soon, the monster lets out a roar and prepares to stomp on him. Thankfully, Chioldu dodges the attack and retaliates with another fierce strike. The strike causes the giant to howl in pain. Our hero smirks and boasts about his axe skill. Even as it roars, the Cyclops shifts its eye to focus on our protagonist. It then fires a destructive beam. He barely escapes in time, leaping back to avoid the blast. Exhausted, our hero coughs, now seeing the giant as a creature that was holding back its true power. A digital display appears, showing a countdown. The timer reveals that only 5 minutes are left. This startles Chioldu. Choi and Jun Hwan arrive at the battlefield after hearing the explosion. Without warning, the giant launches another attack, leaving the soldiers in awe. The creature's might leaves them speechless. Our protagonist orders them to target its leg since he managed to leave a scratch there. He then decides to engage the monster himself. Both men swiftly disable the giant's leg. Meanwhile, Chioldu observes that although the beam could be fatal, the creature isn't invincible. Our hero notices a pattern where the attacks occur. At consistent intervals, he jumps and jokes that the giant should be guarding the forest, not wreaking havoc. On the screen, the timer shows that only 1 minute and 47 seconds remain. Realizing the urgency, our hero dismisses the idea of blindly swinging his weapon. Choi informs him that they have successfully taken down the giant's leg. After commending their work, our protagonist calls for his horse. The timer now reads only 29 seconds left. Chioldu believes there's only one way to deal with the situation. A flashback of his younger self shows him confused and disoriented. He recalls the loss of his parents and how he stopped growing emotionally after their deaths. Dark emotions took root in him at that time, but now, he decides to break free from that emotional prison. He now has friends and comrades to protect. For their sake, he wants to heal from his grief. With a determined expression, our hero remains focused on his goal. He swings his axe, reflecting that through inner discipline, he has uncovered a truth that his younger self could not perceive. Sonata gallops in at full speed and Chioldu leaps onto the horse. The timer shows just 10 seconds left. In those final moments, our hero leaps off the horse and concentrates all his strength into a single strike. In the last 2 seconds, he channels Ogre's power and lands a devastating blow. Finally, the Cyclops is defeated. The system announces their victory, and the Tree of Protection transforms into the Tree of Guardianship. Jint appears, celebrating their success. Area C-442 is now officially part of Earth and ready for new settlers, as the protective mist has been lifted. Chioldu commends everyone for their hard work. They now know that defeating area bosses breaks the boundaries. Additionally, he has acquired the Cyclops weapon. The Cyclops halberd, a new mission is revealed. Nova's world is vast and more territories must be explored. our protagonist is taken aback by this new task. A new task appears on the screen, requiring the training of a mount, with a reward for recruits who wish to ride horses. Shildu feels a bit of regret, seeing that everyone can now acquire this skill. Jinti comments that this method differs from the horseback raiders' approach, which doesn't align with the true Nova system. Shrugging it off with a chuckle, our hero decides to turn his mercenary team into cavalry, but Junwin counters, emphasizing the need for military diversity and preparing the army for any scenario. Frustrated with the ongoing complaints, the protagonist expresses his dissatisfaction with the meager reward for their efforts. Out of nowhere, the world tree glows brightly and a portal opens. The group stands puzzled, wondering if another Cyclops is appearing. However, a massive, monstrous foot emerges instead. A smiling goblin steps forward, carrying a bag filled with coins. He announces that they should come forward and choose their desired items, as he doesn't make frequent appearances. Yato and Jint eagerly realize that it's the goblin merchant. Someone calls for the president as he sits at his desk. He learns that the Japanese government has offered an astronomical sum for the exchange of information on the Nova portal that has opened there. The president sighs deeply, feeling compelled to pay the hefty sum, and instructs his advisor to start negotiations. However, the advisor informs him that they cannot proceed, revealing that South Korea has been excluded from the discussion. The president slams his hand on the table in frustration. He asks how this is possible, baffled by the exclusion and feeling completely ignored. The Japanese embassy states that discussions will only open in the summer. The president complains that summer is months away, equating it to 3 long years in Nova's time. Annoyed, he points out how the Japanese seem to be relishing their advantage in the power struggle. At that moment, the advisor's phone buzzes. He apologizes, about to turn it off, but freezes after reading the message. In shock, he shouts to the president, informing him that something significant has occurred. The president inquires for more details, and the advisor explains that a portal has appeared in Paju, with goblins emerging. Korea now has a new Nova portal. Stunned by the news, the president's expression shifts to one of joy. The advisor also smiles, eagerly showing the phone screen. The president remarks that this is wonderful, though he quickly gathers himself, reminding the advisor that now is not the time for celebration, since the Paju portal is dangerously close to the capital. Feeling embarrassed, the advisor apologizes and suggests an emergency meeting. The president asks him to hold on, mentioning one last task. He must immediately contact Major General Park Junpil of Neosol. The scene then shifts to Nova, where a system announcement declares that Area C442 is now considered Earth's territory. New settlers will be accepted and the protective fog is lifted. Kim and his team watch the developments. Kim wonders aloud if the barrier has come down, while others shout that the blue mist is vanishing. One soldier observes that the area boss must have been defeated. Kim smiles knowingly, saying he already knows who's behind it. He believes the success of the hunt is thanks to Chil Du Kang. Inside Neosol headquarters, celebrations begin, as taking down the Cyclops was crucial for progress. With a blue notification, General Park sees that Area C442 now belongs to Earth, which means the portal will open soon. He quickly rises from his seat, declaring that there's no time to waste as the area will soon resemble Osaka, and preparations must be swift. Just then, Captain On bursts in. The general excitedly asks if he's seen the screen, but the captain interrupts, bringing more urgent news. The president is calling about the opening of the Paju portal. The general needs to prepare to return to Earth immediately. The old man, surprised, begins to get ready, joking about using the fastest portal to reach Seoul. When the captain mentions there is no such portal, the general laughs, admitting it was just a joke. Back in the newly acquired area, the merchant goblin remarks that this is a rare opportunity. A system interface appears before him, displaying a list of colorful scrolls in red, green, blue, purple, and yellow. Shildu examines the option. He finds the red and green talismans particularly intriguing. The screen labels the red talisman as a breakthrough scroll, which boosts status limits for 200 goblin coins. Realizing he can enhance his attributes even further, he imagines the possibilities and decides to purchase 10 of each color. Jint panics, exclaiming that this is insane since Koldu is about to spend his entire fortune. With a confident grin, our hero says he'll aim to reach 100 stats. Noting how much fun it is to get stronger, he promptly presses the button to complete the transaction. Next, the status stones scattered on the ground must be distributed. Choi suggests they take all of them to maximize his limit, explaining that once he hits the 50 mark, he will become a ranker. When Shildu wonders about the purpose of becoming a ranker, Choi clarifies that it allows a person to measure their strength level. He discreetly discloses his position as 903rd in perception. Feeling disappointed by this rank, our protagonist reacts with astonishment. Choi urges him to keep it confidential. Puzzled, Chioldu questions how one can know their rank without direct competition. Choi clarifies that upon becoming a ranker, one can compete on the ranking grounds, where the system assigns a position automatically. Our protagonist is taken aback by his ignorance of this. With a mix of regret and eagerness, he grabs a blue stone. The system notes that he has used 2 status stones, boosting his strength to 43, dexterity to 35, stamina to 50, perception to 38, and magic to 9. With 50 vital points, the system announces his transportation to the ranking ground. Chioldu, full of anticipation, eagerly looks forward to the new location. Upon arrival in a vast white expanse, he surveys the surroundings, uncertain if this is the actual ranking ground. A message pops up, signaling a stamina test, instructing him to sprint at full speed. Our protagonist finds the task odd, but notices the ground taking shape as he progresses. As he runs, the system records his speed at 3.4 km/h. Completing the task, he thinks this is easier than anticipated. He pushes himself further and begins to sprint, confident that simplicity is his strongest asset. Determined to run until exhaustion sets in, the scene transitions to the office of the Japanese Prime Minister. A subordinate excitedly reports that Sato elite forces have decided to challenge the next area boss. The Prime Minister celebrates and demands a 5-fold increase in the intelligence rate to strengthen Japan's position in Nova. Suddenly, someone bursts in. There's a major issue. The Prime Minister inquires about the disturbance. The man gestures to a screen showing the news. A portal has appeared in Korea, leaving the Japanese leader speechless. The broadcast features a Korean news report, stating that they are sharing information as part of a global cooperation effort. This undermines Japan's plans. The Prime Minister shakes with fury, shouting that Korea has even disclosed the portal's opening. He demands to know how they managed to defeat the area boss, while his advisor speculates whether they have a secret weapon. The Prime Minister angrily instructs the advisor to identify the individual immediately. Meanwhile, General Park proclaims that the Republic of Korea has officially ushered in the era of dimensional exploration. Later, the Korean president claps and congratulates Director Park, praising him for his exceptional accomplishment. The president mentions plans to create a Nova army and requests Park to lead its establishment at army headquarters. Park graciously declines, expressing contentment in his current role. The president smiles, viewing him as a humble individual, but suggests that since Neosol has a solid system in place, someone else can take over while Park is needed for a larger responsibility. After a brief pause, Park asks to be sent to Cheongju to turn it into the central hub for Korea's portal network. The president agrees, confident that no one is better suited for the task, and promotes him to Lieutenant General Park, assigning the Cheongju portal to his charge. Back in Nova, a system window appears confirming that the measurement is complete. With a total of 2,512 points, the system announces that Chioldu has secured first place. Our protagonist laughs triumphantly and receives 25 points for use in the ranker store. Jin-T rushes over to ask how it went. Chioldu casually replies that he finished first, leaving the others in disbelief. Choi finds the news hard to believe and asks if he earned a significant number of points. Our hero proudly confirms he earned 25 points. Choi is overwhelmed as he calculates the magnitude of the achievement, while Junwin asks if he has spent any of his points yet. Chioldu shakes his head, revealing that he only expanded his inventory for the time being. He inquires if anyone has achieved ranker status across all stats yet. Junwin responds that he's unsure, as most people focus on specific attributes for the ranking store. Upon hearing this, our hero gets excited and decides to pursue that goal. Hoping for a first-time reward, Jintai asks if the group intends to continue hunting before heading back. Chioldu responds that they still have plenty of supplies, and it would be a waste to leave now. The aim is to tame some animals and earn the special inventory reward. He instructs Junwin to take the mercenaries to find horses while he stays with Sonata. Noting the collapse of the border, our protagonist decides to explore what lies ahead. Several days pass near a portal as people gather to bid farewell to General Park. Park reflects on his departure, feeling the burden of leaving his post. He asks Captain An if the transfer has been properly completed. The captain confirms that LT called Junsu Kim will oversee the transition. The general complains that the colonel has barely ventured out of his home and is likely unfamiliar with the local terrain. Turning to the lieutenant colonel, Park urges him to take good care of the new commander once he arrives. The colonel quietly says he'll sort things out, but as he watches the general walk away, he mutters that Park won't be there to see how it ends. Across the courtyard, someone rushes toward the colony. Lee suddenly appears and crashes into the colonel, sending him tumbling awkwardly to the ground. She turns back with a playful grin, pretending she didn't notice him, though the colonel realizes it was intentional. Upon seeing her, Park remarks he didn't expect a visit before leaving. She explains that she ran back as soon as she heard the news and asks about his sudden assignment to Kyongju. The general replies that things are happening quickly. Lee asks him to bring them along, citing the persistent shortage of staff, but he explains that orders from higher up prevent the transfer of essential personnel. He adds that Neosol needs them, and reminds her that he is no longer the major general in charge. Lee sighs and accepts the situation. She asks what kind of commander the new leader of Neosol will be, just as a figure steps out from the portal. The newcomer remarks that Neosol looks like a rundown place. Everyone stares in disbelief as the man appears clad only in his underwear. This man is the new commander, General Wen Jinlim. The scene shifts to Chiu-du and Jin Ti entering a snow-covered Neosol area on horseback. The system notifies them they've left Area C442. Arriving in a snowy region, the system announces their entry into Area W3105. Our hero wonders if this is the third exploration area and notices the dramatic shift in weather. Chioldu complains about the harsh cold, while Jintai shivers beside him. Their journey has been exhausting. First, they crossed parched land that dried their skin, followed by a swampy, rain-soaked region. Each map has its own distinct traits, and even the creatures differ from one area to another. Jintai reflects that the world is too vast for them to keep exploring without end. Our protagonist says that if they travel far enough, they will eventually find a new portal linking to another continent. Jin Ti calls this a bold theory, but asks what our boy is up to as he notices him rubbing his hands together. With a serious expression, Chaldu explains he's trying to warm up. Suddenly, he begins to shake uncontrollably as the icy cold of the snowy region finally overwhelms him. Jintai laughs, pointing out that even ogre skin doesn't help against this intense chill. Struggling with the cold, Chaldu suggests they head back, believing the mercenary group must have already completed their mission. Jintai agrees, saying they'll be better prepared next time. As they turn back, our protagonist decides to ask General Park to prepare winter gear for the next expedition. The scene returns to Neosol, where workers are shifting heavy material. They talk about the steep prices of the items and the need to handle them carefully. Lee reflects that in just 10 days, the place has already transformed. Many workers hurry to move materials to the back where a golf course is being constructed. Wonjin stands nearby, visibly upset and shouting at someone. Carrying hefty pieces of wood, the workers grumble about being underpaid to build a golf course while they miss their former boss. Nearby, a man gripes about soaring prices. The seller defends himself, claiming he needs to make a living, but the construction has caused severe shortages. The new general is turning Neosol into an upscale refuge for himself, leading Lee to wonder if this will truly protect the citizens. Suddenly, someone calls out to her with the news that our hero's squad has returned. She realizes things are about to get complicated. Through the dust, the mercenaries appear. Chaldu is in shock, yelling desperately and asking where his house went. He demands to know who had the nerve to destroy his home and calls for Junpil to show himself. Lee tells him that Lieutenant General Park Junpil has been reassigned elsewhere. The sergeant and Captain Choi are stunned, asking who is now in charge. Lee reveals that General Wonjin Lim is the new commander, and that he's waiting for them. Chioldu grits his teeth, fuming because they messed with his property. Our hero rallies his mercenaries and orders them to march straight to the central government office. Mounted on their horses, the mercenaries charge forward, shouting that they're going to reclaim their home. At the headquarters, the general asks Kim if they're ready for Chioldu. The colonel confirms they have over 600 men prepared, including armed soldiers, reservists, and civil defense members. The general comments that our boy is the key to Neosol's success, so he thinks they should force him to join their side. His subordinate affirms everything is set. The old man declares that it doesn't matter how strong the target is. Our protagonist is just a 20-year-old kid who needs to be put in his place. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. The general wonders if it's an earthquake. Kim quickly realizes that the tremor comes from the Ironhead mercenaries. He rushes to the headquarters, arriving right in front of them. General, who smirks and remarks that the return was louder than anticipated. Chioldu angrily questions whether he is responsible for the house's destruction. Offended by his tone, the colonel yells at the boy to address the general respectfully. Ignoring the colonel entirely, our hero clamps his hand over the colonel's mouth, demanding an answer. He menacingly repeats the question, insisting on knowing whether the general destroyed their home. The colonel struggles to breathe. The general bursts into laughter, questioning aloud if Chioldu is truly this angry over a mere house. Irritated, the boy releases the colonel and insists that the general stop laughing and explain himself. The general declares that the land now falls under his control and anyone using it must pay. The demolition was part of his duties. Chioldu protests, asking why he should pay when the land was gifted by Junpil. The general warns that Neosol is now under his rule and the boy must obey his terms. Shifting approach, the general extends a hand, inviting Chioldu to join him and promising as much land as he desires. The boy echoes the offer aloud. Pondering the proposal, he still furiously demands his land back immediately. The general laughs darkly, saying if that is his choice, so be it. Suddenly, he brands the Ironhead mercenaries as traitors. He commands his men to eliminate them. Kang Chiu-du's forces ready themselves for the coming clash, scanning the area and checking for hidden enemies. Meanwhile, Chioldu approaches the general alone. In response, the general orders all his troops to prepare for combat. One enemy soldier jeers at the advance, questioning what mere mercenaries could possibly threaten them. Before he finishes, the hero fixes him with a sharp glare and commands him to stop immediately. The warning is unmistakable. Drawing a weapon will mean instant death for anyone who defies him. Terrified, the general scolds his guards, asking how they could be so gullible to fall for a bluff. Just then, someone calls out to our hero. Yangsu and Choi grab him, suggesting a peaceful dialogue to prevent a disastrous war. Taken aback by the interruption, the general asks who they are and whether they are soldiers, sensing his grip on authority weakening. He calls for Lee. She arrives instantly. The general confirms if she is indeed Neosol's swordmaster, which she reluctantly acknowledges. He then offers her a promotion if she swiftly defeats Chioldu. She simply sighs, replying that she cannot defeat him, leaving the general frustrated. The general grabs her forcefully, shouting, asking if she thinks he's a joke. Keeping calm, Lee smirks mockingly, noting that his behavior is far worse than she expected. The general declares he will demonstrate the true meaning of worse and lunges forward with his hand. But his wrist is halted mid-motion as our hero seizes his arm. Chioldu remarks coldly that the man clearly underestimates Nova. The general stares in disbelief at the lightning-fast reflex. Chioldu continues, explaining that his group isn't made up of petty thieves or reckless gang. Yet they show no mercy to anyone who dares challenge them. As Chioldu tightens his grip, the general cries out in agony. Chioldu then turns to the other soldiers, asking if they still have the courage to oppose him. The troops appear intimidated. One drops his weapon, screaming in defeat. Soon the rest follow, questioning how they could possibly overcome Chioldu. They concede that fighting the hero who saved Neosol is pointless. Another soldier comments that the place no longer feels like a strict military zone. He announces his intention to join the mercenary, and many others shout in agreement. Lee is taken aback by the scene. She finds it astonishing that in such turbulent times, neither Neosol nor the army protects the people. Yet Chioldu, with his immense power, is the one holding everything together. The general yells at Lee, criticizing her for standing idle while her superior is in peril. He commands her to eliminate the threat immediately. Lee realizes she has no other option and makes a decisive choice. She steps before Chioldu and proclaims that, from now on, her sword serves him. Everyone is shocked as she declares the Neosol she once knew is gone. She sees no future there, but she does see one with our hero. She places her trust in Nova's guidance for a brighter future. Smiling with assurance, Chioldu welcomes her to the team. The general questions her loyalty, but Lee tells him simply to process her discharge. Stunned, he protests, asking who authorized her decision. Lee claims it herself, ignoring his objection. Stepping aside, she tells him that any complaints should be taken up with her new leader. Terrified, the general listens as Chioldu discusses the cost of destroying the mercenary base. Gulping nervously, he asks if Chioldu truly intends to attack, even risking Korean military retaliation. Grabbing the collar, Chioldu admits he is tempted to strike immediately, but instead offers a solution. He demands compensation for the land, where the base stood plus the original reward promised by Junpil. Later, the mercenary team celebrates with drinks. Chioldu learns Junpil was sent to Cheongju. Lee asks what the unit's next plan is. Chioldu explains they intend to explore beyond the barrier, but without army support, they must survive on their own. Jin T suggests heading to Cheongju, noting that discovery rewards are still up for grabs. Chioldu smiles, liking the idea. He considers the local boss who must be there, and the fact Junpil is already on site. Jin T asks for other opinions, and everyone agrees. Jun Hyun notices a troubled look on Chioldu's face. He inquires, and Chioldu expresses concern about leaving Choi and Yangsu behind. Lee explains Captain Choi struggles to leave because his mother is ill, and Yangsu would stay out of loyalty. Chioldu is confused until Lee clarifies that Choi depends on military hospitals and salary for his mother's care, resources unavailable in Nova's wilderness. After a moment of thought, Chioldu comes up with a brilliant plan. As Choi exits his room, explaining to Yangsu that the transfer to Gyeongju was denied. Chioldu appears, calling out to them. Choi asks why he's here, and with a confident grin, Chioldu declares he's bringing them both along. Later on a bench, Choi tells Yangsu to join the mercenary, but refuses himself. Chioldu asks if he would join if his family were guaranteed safe. Choi asks for detail. Chioldu explains he has a company on Earth, Childu Services, which supports the families of Nova's team. Choi, skeptical, asks if it's a gang. Flustered, Chioldu assures him it's a legitimate business protecting the squad's family. Impressed by Chioldu's practical solutions, the men agree to join. He then prepares to move his entire squad to Cheongju Nova. They provide transportation and meals to those affected by the new commander. Days later, at the Paju portal, a large crowd gathers. Chioldu walks through, observing the changes since Nova's official announcement. A military jeep arrives, and a soldier steps out to greet him, introducing herself as Second Lieutenant Seung Achui from the intelligence unit. At first, our hero doesn't recognize her, but she reminds him that she was previously with Officer O. Chil asks why she is addressing him, and she explains that she carries a message from Lieutenant General Park. She introduces herself as a member of the Cheongju Nova intelligence unit, assigned to escort him to his destination. Chioldu grins knowingly. Seeing that they finally understand each other, he immediately turns, indicating they should depart. She protests, questioning if he won't ride with her in the jeep, but Childu explains the group is too large and they must travel separately. At that moment, he notices the rest of the people arriving by buses. Number 1 greets his leader, but our hero reminds him that they are not a gang. Number 1 then explains that, following the subleader's orders, he arranged buses for the civilians. Chioldu praises him and Gentai for their efforts. Jin-T modestly claims he simply spread the word, noting that the protagonist hasn't gathered as many people as expected. Chioldu acknowledges that the sudden shift was a heavy load for some. The mercenaries chose to follow later, and he respects their decision. After all, they are starting anew in rural Cheongju. Smiling, our hero reveals he selected specific individuals to help develop Cheongju. Among them is a soup maker with unmatched culinary skill, and a blacksmith who can repair or craft any weapon. Ready to set off, Childu waves at Sung. As the buses begin descending, he suggests stopping at a rest area first. Soon, they step through the portal. Observing the surroundings, Childu remarks on how much the area has progressed in such a short span. Jinta notices the people's clothing and laughs, already sensing Lieutenant General Park's influence. Kyuldu jokes that they left Neosol only to find a similar place. Suddenly, the general excitedly calls for our hero. Koldu laughs in greeting, mentioning he was worried upon hearing the man had been expelled. The general responds that it's normal for soldiers to change posts. Koldu comments that he nearly slapped the man who replaced him, and the general admits it was fortunate he refrained. Our protagonist then mentions bringing gifts. The general is intrigued until he realizes the newcomers are merchants from Neosol. Koldu explains his plan to establish a village. Concerned about the general being alone, he brought everyone willing to join him, leaving the general overjoyed. The general notes these are exactly the people needed to advance Nova's growth. The merchants greet the general, expressing they missed him. The general thanks Childu for his support. Koldu proudly replies that's what friends are for, urging the general to consider it a favor. He thanks the general for lending his men. Soon, Lei, Choi, and Yansu arrive in Cheongju. Li warmly greets the general, noting it has been a while. Chioldu explains that these newcomers are now part of the mercenary group and will aid development. After a pause, the general points out they've left the army and laughs heartily. He praises their efforts, saying he was concerned for them, and expresses delight that everyone came to Chioldu. Excitedly, he invites everyone to share a meal. As they walk through the village, Childu wonders if it will become another Neosol. The general anticipated the question and names the place Hanyang, explaining the goal is to secure food for future generations in this farming area. To defend against monster attacks, they constructed an earthen fortress. Additionally, with new roads, it will evolve into a commercial hub, allowing trade with all continents. Our hero finds the concept of an agricultural village remarkable. The general proudly shares that the secret was sourcing rice seedling, noting each region offers unique resources. Excited about the rice, Childu asks if they can finally eat rice porridge instead of barley. The general laughs, calling him innocent and pure-hearted. However, the general remembers he called Childu for a more important matter. Our hero halts. General Park asks if they want to attempt conquering a secret dungeon, prompting Chioldu to become excited while the group shows interest. As they walk, the general mentions they discovered a magical teleportation circle, which will be essential for transportation in Nova. Our hero wonders what a teleportation circle is. Park explains it was found by a guard by chance. A system window provides detail. The magic circle enables instant travel to other registered circles for 100,000 coins. The general notes that discovering similar circles elsewhere will allow direct travel. Chaldu asks if areas near the circle will become highly valued. Laughing at the comparison, the general agrees. He plans to build a major road connecting Hanyang to that location. But the route is blocked right now by a dungeon. That makes our boy realize why they were asked to do this. The general admits the mission is beyond what they can handle at the moment, and that it calls for the power of the mercenary unit. He vows that if they clear the dungeon, he'll allow them to take that location as their headquarters. Lured by the deal, Childu quickly arrives at the dungeon entrance with his squad. A system window appears, revealing the hidden dungeon as the Count's cursed castle. The goal is to eliminate the Count who practiced forbidden sorcery. The rewards include a Lord Seal and a first clear bonus. Standing at the entrance, Chioldu takes in the grand castle and the promised prize. The mood is tight and uneasy. Jint remarks that the sky feels threatening, and even the mercenaries seem rattled. Chaldu says anyone who's scared can stay back, his gaze brimming with murderous intent. The soldiers immediately rethink it, yelling that nobody will run. Our hero adds that his axe won't be dirtied with a coward's blood. Then he orders them to gear up, keep quiet and move. The troops ride forward and a huge glowing arrow suddenly slams into the ground, halting one of the horses. More arrows rain down, pinning the mounts and cutting off any movement. Seoul reads the situation at once. It's long-range fire from higher ground, so a straight push is tough. The shooters are skeleton archers. Seeing that, our protagonist leaps off his horse and tells the scattered troops to regroup and hold position. With urgency and resolve, Chil roars that he'll smash the castle gate. Arrows drop toward him, but he ignores them. He tells Sonata to run and surges forward at full speed. The horse gains a new skill, galloping charge, boosting its leg speed. A nearby skeleton archer looks stunned by the sudden rush. Still charging, our boy orders Sonata to hit with strength. After the gate is destroyed, the horse learns another skill, horned impact. Terrified, the skeletons shriek an alarm at the breach, drawing every enemy's attention. Skeletons swarm Koldu as he shouts for them to bring it on. He snatches one and smashes it with a headbutt, declaring his skull is iron. Seeing the arrow barrage has stopped, the subleader commands the cavalry to rush the gate. Nearby, Koldu takes on 3 skeletons by himself. He swings his axe at the monsters, striking hard enough to crack them apart while grumbling about how flimsy they are. At this pace, he figures he'll be done before help even shows up, and he wonders if anyone tougher is around. Then heavy footsteps thunder close by. A huge foe in full armor steps into view, and our protagonist stares in surprise. Without hesitation, Koldu attacks. He taunts it, asking if that's really all it can do, saying the knight looks weaker than a cyclops. Our boy lands a crushing hit on the knight, sending the hulking body crashing to the ground. He yells that this is dull and complains that the enemy didn't drop any loot. Just then his squad arrives and asks if he's alright. Our hero says he's fine, though he gripes that they only show up after he's already cleared everything. He starts issuing commands, some stay back, the rest push forward, warning them to watch for threats inside. Jint suddenly screams a warning, but it's too late. Childu is struck hard from behind unbelievably by the fallen knight. Dullahan, the manor's guardian, is still alive. Jint and the mercenaries shout his name as a deep gash rips across his back. He can't believe he dropped his guard. Convinced the monster was finished, as the giant closes in to swing again, Lee appears and delivers a devastating blow. Striking from several angles, she knocks the knight down again and darts to Kael'du's side. Our hero points out it still isn't dead, noting the enemy lived through the earlier beating. Meanwhile, skeletal creatures start rising again as Dullahan rebuilds its body. Lee wonders how they can move if they're already dead. Seoul says dark magic is puppeteering the corpses. Remembering what he read earlier, our boy realizes that to truly end this, they have to kill the count controlling them. He orders the others to buy him time so he can get inside, but Lee stops him, insisting she treat his wounds first. Once he's wrapped up, our protagonist leaves the outer defense to his comrades and heads into the manor. Inside, the air reeks of decay, making him clamp a hand over his nose. He soon spots a large creature and wonders if it's what's causing the stench. The system window identifies it as a corpse golem. Childu remarks that something interesting has finally shown up. He was getting tired of this, but he's bleeding heavily, so he decides to end it fast. He rushes forward to locate the count and strikes the golem. The creature raises its arm in defense. However, the weapon pierces through its torso. The golem lets out a shriek as it's torn apart, yet its wounds begin closing almost instantly. Irritated, the warrior mutters under his breath about battling an immortal Dullahan. Faced with a regenerating foe, he summons his magic-infused axe from his inventory. With relentless strikes, he tests whether the golem's regeneration can keep up with his assault. Soon, the golem is ripped into pieces. He names this technique Barbarian-style destruction. A system alert pops up, granting him a new skill for his mastery with heavy weapons, dual-wield mastery. Though thrilled by the upgrade, he is suddenly enveloped by the golem's flesh. He wonders how it can regenerate after being shredded and notices a red orb pulsing within the mass. Still trapped, he stretches out his hand toward the orb, struggling as the flesh fully engulfs him. Finally, he smashes the orb. With it destroyed, the golem collapses. Keadu acquires another orb, identified by the system as a golem skill. Knowing he's gained a valuable asset, he ventures deeper into the manor. Entering the inner sanctum, he calls out to announce his presence. Demanding that the count reveal himself, a figure in a long blue cape steps forward. Shuldu looks up and recognizes him as Count Ryan. The system notes that the count had used forbidden dark magic to protect his domain. Ultimately, he was consumed by it. Determined, our hero faces the corrupted noble and quips about the man being half original recipe, half fried. The knight remains silent. Chioldu remarks on it but decides it doesn't matter and leaps forward to strike. He declares his goal is clear, to end this fight once and for all. Chioldu attacks with both axes, but the Count counters fiercely. Caught off guard by the knight's strength, he struggles to defend himself. Engulfed in flames, he presses on despite the unbearable heat burning his skin, making it nearly impossible to continue. Breathing becomes a challenge. He realizes these flames are far from ordinary, so he activates his search ability. The system scans the half-lit Count ruin and generates results. An undead with dark magic and level 2 swordsmanship. Chil notes the enemy's weapon mastery, while the Count slices through his bandages. He then uses the orb from the golem to gain its regenerative power. The system explains that as long as the core remains, even destroyed limbs can heal. Feeling invincible, our hero taunts the enemy to strike freely. Meanwhile, the mercenaries battle the skeletal army. Jun Hwan commands his allies to hold firm and keep attacking, while Lee struggles against the giant knight. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she acknowledges how dire the situation is. Their only hope rests on their leader. The clash between Count Ryan and Childu intensifies. Childu grits his teeth, thinking of his companions waiting for him. Determined to finish the fight, their weapons collide with tremendous force, leaving him surprised by the blow's power. He struggles to defend against the attack, exerting full effort with both weapons, only to see the Count cut through with a flaming spear. One axe is knocked away, complicating matters. Before he can recover, the Count strikes again, pushing him back. He begins to discern the Count's strategy, relentless attacks to prevent escape. In an instant, the Count vanishes and reappears. Childu starts to anticipate the enemy's moves and ponders the secret behind the relentless assault. Agility isn't just weapon speed. Each motion sets up the next in a flawless sequence. He counters while cursing the Count, realizing he must learn this technique quickly. Their exchange remains fast and brutal. A system notification appears, indicating his axe skill has advanced to level 2. He wonders if he now matches the opponent, as he can clearly perceive the enemy's attack pattern. Using this insight, he blocks effectively and acknowledges the lessons learned from the Count. After bidding farewell, he lands the final strike, defeating the enemy. The system announces the completion of the secret dungeon. Sighing, he reflects on his broken gun. Soon, the system presents his rewards, including a seal of the Lord to claim the territory. He is also given the Steel Knight's longsword previously used by the Count, as well as the goddess's pendant. This pendant holds divine healing powers. Holding it, the protagonist senses its restorative effect and realizes he can now heal his injured comrade. Soon, he reunites with his team. Everyone is overjoyed to see him, but they're even more astonished to see his wounds completely healed. Yadu brushes it off as just a minor adventure and asks Junhyun about the current situation. Junhyun informs him that 7 men are seriously injured. Excitedly, our hero urges him to take him to the injured. The subordinate looks puzzled, not understanding how the healing could be possible. Holding the gleaming pendant, the protagonist invokes the goddess's power, requesting healing for his comrades. Soon, all the injured fully recover. Jinta questions whether they're truly healed, and the protagonist explains that the item can only be used a limited number of times, with just 3 charges left. Despite this, Jin is thankful that everyone survived the tough battle. However, the mood turns somber as Lee and Junwon stand with sad expression. They reveal that there were 3 casualties. Later, the group holds a large funeral for the fallen mercenaries. Holding the necklace, our hero laments the loss, thinking that if only he had acted faster, this tragedy could have been avoided. But then he realizes that his feelings are misplaced and declares that the loss of life in battle is a noble sacrifice. He expresses his gratitude to the comrades who fought until the end and announces their victory in taking over a new fortress. Kaldu mentions that they will convert this place into a stronghold, ensuring no one will be able to threaten them again. A system prompt appears asking if he wishes to use the seal of the Lord to make this area his territory. He agrees, and the area becomes Ironhead's domain. This is now their main base, the castle of the Iron Head. Later, at a teleportation circle, Chioldu and the general discuss the situation. Park mentions that with the successful dungeon conquest, they can now build a road leading directly to the site. He asks how the protagonist feels about becoming a lord, and the protagonist replies that it's not too bad. He plans to bring the families of the mercenaries here soon, and Park agrees that Earth is no longer a safe place. The general looks thoughtful and shares that he has a confidential matter, asking if Childu can keep it private. Curious, the protagonist asks what it's about. The general reveals that he recently provided information on opening portals to the United States, which led to the discovery of the cause of the apocalypse. Surprised, Chioldu inquires about the cause. With a serious expression, General Park tells him to prepare and warns him to avoid being shot. He reveals that the Earth's apocalypse was caused by a zombie virus. Shocked, the protagonist asks if the information is credible. The general confirms this, stating that there have been reports of infected individuals turning into zombies. He wonders if the plan to relocate the population from the Terror to Nova is still necessary. The general explains that moving such a large number of people is a complex task unless the apocalypse is imminent. Childu agrees, acknowledging how challenging the transition is for many, which is why citizens from Neosol couldn't reach Chengju quickly. He then asks what will happen once the zombie virus becomes widely known. The general reacts sharply, alarmed by the suggestion. He warns that it would lead to total chaos and further points out the current lack of territory and food supplies in Nova. Our protagonist understands the need for preparation before allowing more refugees to arrive. As they walk, the protagonist asks how the government plans to prepare. The general explains the strategy to build barriers near Korea's 5 portals along with new evacuation shelters. Additionally, they aim to ensure safety and food security within Nova itself. For this reason, he has a specific request for the warrior. He asks Childu to help open the remaining portal. The protagonist asks if this means defeating the field bosses in each Nova region. Park nods, explaining that although others are doing their best, progress is slow. He believes that with his help the process could move much faster. Unexpectedly, Child declines. Surprised, Park asks why. The protagonist states that from now on, he will only fight for his own people. A disappointed Park reveals he had hoped they shared the same vision for the world. The warrior apologizes, explaining that he doesn't fight for humanity as a whole. He believes it's a luxury to fight for others when he hasn't even been able to protect his own family. Meanwhile, on Earth, occasional casualties occur as goblins start appearing outside the portal. In the street, Chioldu's grandfather walks along while the government issues warnings for people to stay indoors. Sighing, the elderly man remarks that things are about to escalate. He notices that his grandson hasn't sent any messages lately and wonders if he is eating properly. Suddenly, a goblin falls from the sky and charges at him. Terrified, the old man collapses and struggles to escape. Out of nowhere, someone appears behind and strikes the creature with a powerful blow. Shortly after, a pair of siblings arrive. They work for Chioldu on Earth. The girl inquires if the elderly man is fine and offers her hand to assist him. He tells her to leave him alone and refuses her help. Rising on his own, he ignores her gesture. The other boy presents a goblin coin, hoping the grandfather will use it to become a novice. The old man grumbles that he doesn't need it and tells them to keep it for themselves. The girl, upset, demands to know why he's being so cruel and why he despises them so much. The grandfather responds that he fears Chioldu might be tainted by bandits like them. He asserts that he doesn't want any help from criminals. The girl is visibly hurt by his words. At that moment, the hero appears behind them, urging the siblings not to feel guilty, as they've done nothing wrong. Childu then calls out to the old man. Smiling, the protagonist takes out a bottle from his bag. Later, they sit at a table and pour a drink. Childu asks if his grandfather has been praying a lot recently. The elder replies that it's because of him, as he cannot sleep without praying, consumed by worry. Complaining a bit, the grandfather remarks that his grandson doesn't seem to care and wonders why he's even visited. They make a toast while the boy wonders if the old man is upset, suggesting they stay together if the worry is too overwhelming. He insists that his grandfather come with him to Nova, secretly thinking that Earth is about to become dangerous because of the virus. He adds that if it weren't for those siblings, things would be much harder for them. The grandfather interrupts, telling him not to mention those criminals. The hero asks why he has so much hatred towards them. The elder explains that he simply cannot trust people like them. In a flashback, a younger version of the grandfather appears. Revealing a troubled past, he was once a successful gangster, a favorite of the boss, who later became the president of a construction company. However, when problems arose, his comrades turned all the blame on him. After his arrest, he realized he was just a scapegoat. He spent his youth in prison, and when he got out, he had nothing left. Just as he was about to give up, he found Childu as a child. The protagonist jokes that he saved the old man's life. The grandfather complains that he's ungrateful and rarely visits. When Chioldu mentions the siblings again, the elder insists he'll handle everything himself. Smiling, the boy remarks that the bad men from the past were the real troublemakers. He then asks if his grandfather has ever considered revenge. The old man brushes off the thought, questioning how he could possibly achieve it. He recalls how his former boss used loyal followers as stepping stones to build the powerful CK group. The scene shifts to the CK Group headquarters in Dijon. Dongchun Kim, chairman of CK Group and an affiliate of the Gangneung Nova Union, thanks the chairman of the Dugong Group, Dusik Choi, while receiving a glass of wine. Choi praises Kim's contributions to Nova, feeling honored. Kim thanks him humbly. Choi then asks the reason for their meeting. Kim mentions their shortage of trained personnel and offers his assistance. Choi inquires why, wondering if Kim is offering his entertainment business. Choi remarks on the rumors about the end of the world, but considers entertainment a solid business in Nova. Kim counters, saying their primary business has always been fighting, and they must lead the hunt with full dedication. Choi agrees and urges Kim to state his true intention. Excited, Kim suggests they also open the portal in Dijian and offers to lead the hunt for it. The area bosses, Choi expresses concern about the potential dangers of the idea. Kim laughs, saying they've always lived in conflict and can do exactly what an unknown boy did in Neosol. Suddenly, a subordinate bursts in, urgently notifying the president that there is a major issue. The man informs them that intruders have forcibly entered the building and are causing chaos. Irritated by the interruption, Kim complains. Choi mutters that the mood is ruined and decides to leave. He promises to continue their discussion later. The subordinate tries to stop him, but it's too late. With a pale expression, the staffer reveals that the president is gone. Furious, Kim vents his anger at the subordinate, shouting at the fool for standing idly and ordering him to call Director Jang to handle the situation immediately. Meanwhile, in the hallway, several men in suits lie unconscious, easily taken down by the intruders. The group is actually led by Chil. A member asks him if they did well. The hero responds that they need to improve, causing her to sigh. Suddenly, the boy halts and tells them to look ahead. Director Yang appears facing the group. The protagonist directly asks if he's the boss. Holding a bag of bread, Childu says that if Jang isn't the boss, the real one better show up soon. Taking a bite of the bread, the hero smiles and casually mentions that he needs to return to his grandfather before the food gets cold. Our protagonist hands the bread to the fifth girl, deciding it's time to deal with Jang. Meanwhile, Jang readies his knives. Childu questions the purpose of the double swords, remarking that such weapons don't belong to their Nova, and wonders if the man is asking to be arrested for assault. Jang gestures toward his wounded men, perplexed by the accusation. Internally, he reflects on his 3 decades in the gang, noting that he's never met anyone like this before. He doesn't understand why they were attacked, but he knows he cannot let it slide. Jang moves forward, wielding his blades with deadly purpose. Amused by the display, our hero dodges the strikes effortlessly. He comments that he's being very lenient for someone from Earth. Then he delivers a heavy strike with his palm, stating that at least he refrains from killing. The force of the blow sends Jang flying backward. Pleased with the outcome, our hero feels satisfied, deciding to use his hands as weapons instead of relying on a sword. With blood in his mouth and agony in his chest, Jang curses Chioldu. He realizes his ribs are broken and prepares to use his ultimate technique, the Pandemonium technique. This move involves hundreds of distracting sword strikes to conceal the main attack. A strike that lands like the bite of a snake. To his astonishment, our hero crushes the steel blades with his bare hand. Jang freezes, realizing that the attack had no effect. He stares at the hero, wondering what kind of legendary technique could make that possible. Mocking the question, Chioldu casually reveals he simply swung his arm. He then delivers another powerful blow, sending Jang crashing to the ground with immense force. The scene transitions to Cheongju, where Jinta carefully surveys Ironhead Castle. He sketches plans for a barracks, a prison, a blacksmith shop, and a general store. He envisions an indoor village. However, he notices the prayer hall is still inactive and wonders how to access the restricted building. Nearby, Lee stretches and yawns on a piece of furniture. Surprised to see him, she asks what he's doing there. She calls him vice captain, then quickly corrects herself, asking if she should refer to him as the chamberlain of the castle instead. A flashback shows Koldu appointing Jint as the chamberlain of Ironhead Castle. A system window confirms the appointment. Our protagonist explains that Jintai will serve as his representative while he's absent to help develop the inner village. He assigns Zhen Huan to lead the main mercenary unit and oversee training, while giving Lee the role of his personal guard, which he notes is quite dangerous. Finally, he assigns Choi and Yangsu to lead the territory's guerrilla unit. Yadu declares that they will turn this location into an invulnerable fortress for the Ironheads, ensuring that no one can ever attack. Back in the present, Lee recalls that the captain returned to Earth after arranging these plans. Jint believes the boss is planning meticulously after the recent loss of several mercenaries. He adds that although the captain may seem tough, he has a sensitive side as well. When Lee asks about their next move, Jin T insists they must wait for the plan to unfold. Lee agrees, though with some hesitation, hoping he's not just out drinking somewhere. The scene shifts back to Earth, where manager Jang is violently thrown onto the pavement. Director Kim watches, growing increasingly annoyed, wondering who could have reduced a man like Jang to such a state. Soon, our hero appears and introduces himself as the grandson of Yangchul Kang. Kim watches Childu with suspicion, thinking he only knows one man by that name. He wonders if the old man trained this giant to seek vengeance. Suddenly, Kim's attitude changes. He laughs loudly, wearing a sinister grin, claiming it's a pleasure to meet the grandson of an old friend. Childu finds the word friend odd, as he's heard a very different version of their history. While pouring a drink, Kim admits there may be a deep misunderstanding between them. In the process, he secretly drops a small pill into the glass. The host suggests they chat over some premium whiskey, praising the drink's quality. Tempted by the offer, Childu agrees to hear the story. He sits on the couch while his companions stand behind him, observing intently. He takes the cup, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. He declares he'll finish it in one go and drinks the entire glass. Kim smiles, pleased by how easily the boy swallowed the lethal substance. He asks how it tastes, inwardly mocking Childu for being foolish enough to take a drink from an enemy. Our hero places a hand over his mouth, seemingly feeling the effects of the poison. With a cruel smile, Kim pulls out a gun. He declares victory and shoots him without hesitation. To Kim's shock, the companions stay calm, even after their leader is shot. Moments later, Kiadu remarks that the taste was surprisingly good. He lands a crushing strike on Kim and orders him to pour another drink. Kim collapses, horrified that the man remains standing. Our hero grins, recalling that he once thought there might be a valid reason behind his grandfather's betrayal. But now he sees Kim as worthless. A system notification shows that poison resistance and golem regeneration have been activated. Panicking, the enemy readies his weapon once more. He warns him not to advance. The boy crushes the gun with his hand and asks if those are his final words. Kim collapses, pleading for mercy and swearing to do anything. The protagonist tests him, demanding an apology to his grandfather. He also insists that the stolen shares be returned and all assets be transferred to Ironhead Corporation. Recognizing the name, Kim realizes this is Childu from Ironhead, who defeated the area boss. The hero confirms it and strikes him again. The scene shifts to the grandfather, who is praying to several deities for Childu's safety. While still deep in prayer, his grandson announces his arrival. The grandfather turns, stunned to see someone kneeling and begging for forgiveness. He asks what occurred, and the hero proudly states that he has captured the man who stole from the company, explaining he taught the thief a lesson. He inquires if his grandfather feels better now. After a pause, the grandfather slaps him across the face, expressing deep disappointment. Sitting at the table, he chastises Childu, warning that resorting to fists for everything risks turning him into a criminal. He cautions that he could end up like Kim. Meanwhile, Kim walks away, thinking he barely escaped. Childu declares he will never forgive anyone who harms his family, even if it means killing them. The elder stresses the value of human life and warns that such aggression invites divine retribution. The protagonist argues that in today's world, hesitation can cost a family dearly. He refuses to accept his grandfather's reasoning, citing his own motives. The old man wonders why he bothers lecturing Childu when he won't listen. Our hero suggests the grandfather accompany him to Nova, insisting that seeing it will change his mind. He explains that Earth is becoming so perilous that mass migration is inevitable. The grandfather reflects, curious about Nova. He wonders why Childu is so eager to take him there. After a moment, he sighs and agrees to go. Childu is taken aback by his sudden compliance, but the grandfather imposes a strict condition: no lives are to be taken. He vows to watch closely as the scene shifts to strategize a solution. The subordinates congratulate Childu for finally persuading the old man. Number 1 asks if they are leaving for Nova immediately. He confirms, explaining the need to secure his grandfather's credential. Number 5 offers assistance, but Childu declines, noting that the grandfather is too shy to meet them and waits elsewhere. Turning to number 1, he inquires about preparation. The subordinate reports that mercenary families are being moved to Nova, officially starting the migration. Childu praises the effort. Number 1 thanks him for the brilliant idea, adding that CK Construction Group has agreed to merge with their company. When asked for the new name, Childu announces it will be IRH Holdings Co., with IRH standing for Ironhead. This change makes him CEO of the firm. Later, Childu and his grandfather arrive at the Paju portal site. Childu explains they need to hunt goblins to collect coins. The grandfather reacts with fear. He prays for protection. Childu notes his own high resistance, but the grandfather reminds him he isn't invincible. Childu suggests they stop talking and move swiftly. 2 hours later, the grandfather sits on a rock, sore and weary. Childu notices they haven't encountered any goblins yet and questions if this is truly their spawn area. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he spots movement in the distance. He grabs his grandfather, starts running, and urges him to hurry. The grandfather demands to be released, calling him a brat as they dash through the forest. Pointing ahead, Childu shouts there's a goblin. The grandfather, terrified, wonders how to catch such a creature. Childu hands him an axe, saying it's a gift for him to use, joking that the grandfather must have wielded one in his gangster days. This only fuels the anger. Laughing, Childu says he'll only step in if things get truly out of hand, as he's capable of taking the creature down in one strike. He rushes forward to catch the old man. Just then, another young man leaps into the scene, armed with a baseball bat. He lands a precise hit, knocking the goblin squarely on the head. The boy celebrates the clean shot while his friend films the action. The cameraman notes that the goal is to capture 5 goblins within 5 hours. On screen, the streamer strikes a pose and thanks the 53 viewers for their support. Comments flood the feed about the fight, though some viewers notice someone in the background. It's Chioldu who now confronts the students. Axe in hand, the protagonist asks the scared boys what's bothering them. He complains they're just novices, questioning why they are taking chances away from others. The old man tries to prevent the situation from escalating, but Chioldu is determined to teach the boys a lesson. The elder scolds Chioldu, threatening to stay behind and miss the Nova trip if his behavior continues. He calls the students over, telling Chioldu to stay put and think about his actions. The two students follow the old man away. Through the dark woods, concerned that Chioldu might actually harm someone, the grandfather resolves to get the students out of danger quickly. He looks back to ensure their safety in the perilous surroundings. Meanwhile, the viewers are discussing the impressive weapon Chioldu holds. The students, driven by greed, decide to steal it. They call out to the old man, who turns and apologizes if his grandson frightened them. With a sly grin, one student comments on the axe's quality before both reveal their knives. They demand the weapon and decide to take the old man as a hostage to ensure a smooth exchange. The grandfather is stunned. The students taunt him, saying they never asked for help and plan to use him as leverage. Despite their threats, the old man grips his axe tightly and calls them contemptible scoundrels. He says he doesn't mind being targeted, but he won't stand for them threatening his grandson. Meanwhile, Chioldu, deep in the forest, ponders. He wonders if he's the one to blame before quickly shifting the blame to the students. For a moment, he worries his grandfather has abandoned him. Suddenly, a scream echoes through the woods. Chioldu turns towards the sound and sees the two students running away in fear. Realizing something is wrong, he hurries to the scene and finds his grandfather lying injured on the ground, coughing heavily and desperate. Chioldu takes out a golden pendant and begs the goddess to heal his grandfather immediately. After the healing, he asks the elder if he's okay. The grandfather apologizes, regretting arguing with Chioldu in front of others. With a warm smile, Chioldu reassures him that everything is fine, and the most important thing is that the grandfather is safe. Helping the old man up, Chioldu asks if he can walk. When the grandfather asks where they are going, Chioldu reveals they're going after the cowards who ran away. The two attackers pause to catch their breath, panting heavily. One student complains about the other's poor use of the axe. Meanwhile, the second curses the grandfather and groans in pain. They suggest fleeing before Chioldu catches up, but then a hand suddenly covers one student's face from behind. Chioldu effortlessly lifts the student off the ground with one hand. The student is paralyzed in shock while his partner freezes in fear, wondering how Chioldu arrived so quickly. With one swift motion, Chioldu slams one student into the other, knocking them both down. The grandfather watches as a baseball bat falls near him. Chioldu declares that the world is no longer peaceful. It's now a battleground where only the strong can survive. He asserts that he isn't a criminal, but a warrior who eliminates anyone who threatens his family. Elsewhere, Lee and Junwon look up at the red moon, their faces filled with worry. They view it as a serious omen. A drowsy Gentai appears, rubbing his eyes and asking why they're staring at the sky. Upon noticing the red moon, he comments that lunar eclipses also occur on Nova. Lee panics, realizing the eclipse is happening right when the boss is outside the castle. During this event, monsters are driven into a bloodthirsty frenzy by the moon's power. Chioldu arrives in Nova, accompanied by his grandfather. A mischievous grin spreads across his face as he realizes he can finally show the city to the elderly man. His grandfather gazes at the red sky, a sense of confusion washing over him, and notes that Chioldu had promised this place would be pleasant. Chioldu is perplexed, trying to understand what could have led to such a drastic shift. In the background, his grandfather keeps yelling, demanding answers about the situation. Sung rushes over, calling out Chioldu's name. He scratches his head, clearly unable to recall who she is, which makes her plead with him to remember her. When he asks how she knew he had arrived, Jung explains that the military controls the entry point to the portal, and she hurried here as soon as she got the report about his return. Chioldu inquires about the situation, and she replies that it's an urgent matter. Major Park is requesting his presence. Later, they reach the government office where Chioldu's grandfather respectfully greets Commander Park, who politely introduces himself. The elderly man wonders if they're causing any trouble, but Park smiles and assures him that it's no bother at all. He mentions that he was eager to finally meet the grandfather of his dear friend, who has now arrived in Nova. A system window pops up, showing the grandfather's status. Yankal Kang is an unremarkable newcomer without any special skills or features. Park remarks that the grandfather holds significant importance to Chioldu. She observes that he and our hero share a particularly strong bond. She then interrupts, eager to comprehend the current circumstances. He inquires about the unusual red sky and the presence of armed soldiers outside. The commander explains that the eclipse event is about to begin. Furious creatures will soon begin attacking humans indiscriminately. These monsters have had their attack power boosted by 50%, and although the rewards have similarly increased by 50%, it remains a tough event to handle. Intrigued by the situation, Childu asks if the current state is stable. Park answers that while Hanyang has time to fortify its defenses, the real danger lies with Ironhead Castle. The castle is about to be overrun before they have the chance to prepare. Koldu points out that Ironhead will soon be swarmed with monsters. The general nods, mentioning that since this is the protagonist's first lunar eclipse, it must be hard for him to imagine the scope of the threat. Unfortunately, their mercenaries are far too few to defend against the impending wave. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, the general urges Sheol-du to return to the castle quickly. He promises that reinforcements will be sent soon to assist. Yadu heads back to his castle with the supporting troops. Jint notices him and is startled to see the grandfather. He eagerly runs to greet the elderly man who smiles back, recognizing him. Jinta asks about the journey, and the elderly man replies that he feels much younger and in better health. Our hero joins in and jokes that his grandfather is more resilient than Jin Ti, leaving Jin Ti dumbfounded. Soon, the Ironhead mercenaries arrive, led by Jun Hwan. They salute their leader, Lord Chioldu, demonstrating their utmost loyalty. The grandfather and the army soldiers watch this display with surprise and admiration. Gramps wonders aloud why they are showing such reverence to Chioldu. Jin Ti explains that the young man has achieved a lot and is truly remarkable. The grandfather, deeply moved, murmurs about his grandson. Feeling a profound sense of pride, he turns to his troops and comments that such greetings are unnecessary before a battle. His eyes gleam as he admits the situation is actually quite promising. He orders everyone to prepare for battle immediately. Later, during a briefing, our hero learns that Lee and the guerrilla unit have already set out. Junhyun reports that monsters are currently approaching from 3 directions. Gnolls are coming from below while orcs move through the forest. Chioldu believes it will be tough to directly confront the hordes. However, he points out that they've fought these monsters before, so defending should not be an issue, especially with the support troops already dispatched. Junwon highlights the real threat. Minotaurs are descending from the hill. Chioldu, surprised, asks if he means the giant bull. Junhyun confirms this and adds that the guerrilla unit went ahead to try and stop their advance. Our protagonist wonders if they went to battle the new monsters alone, suspecting they might be after the rewards for themselves. Irritated, Junwon internally reflects that this is not the case at all. With that, Chiyodu decides he must act before it becomes too late. He tells the others he is relying on them to defend the castle. Meanwhile, the battle is already underway outside. The guerrilla unit is fighting several minotaurs. An enraged beast raises its weapon to strike, but Lee manages to block the powerful attack. She realizes that mounted combat techniques are ineffective against minotaurs, likely due to their hybrid human-animal nature. One of the monsters throws Yangsu off his horse, but Choi swiftly strikes with his sword, eliminating the danger. A concerned Choi rushes to his fallen comrade, asking if he's okay. Yangsu assures him that he's fine despite the challenge. Choi warns that they must hold the line. If the monsters reach the castle, they will face serious consequences. Lee notices another wave of monsters heading directly toward Choi and Yangsu. Determined to act, she unleashes her special move, taking down a group of monsters at once. Yangsu is amazed and calls her my lady. However, she's been injured and shows signs of fatigue. She spits blood, and when Yangsu asks what happened, she admits she was struck during the previous skirmish and has lost an arm. Her companions are visibly shocked by the injury. The situation becomes more dire as the monsters press on. Despite her condition, Lee insists on continuing the battle. She tells them to simply tend to her severed limb. Yangsu thinks the idea is insane and suggests retreating, but she brushes off his concern. She insists there's no need to fall back because their leader has arrived. Sheldu holds up a healing pendant, asking the goddess to restore Lee's arm. Watching the arm reattach, Lee remarks that it is incredible no matter how many times she witnesses. The system alerts that the number of uses for the cure has decreased, leaving just one charge. Turning, Chaldu asks Choi about the current situation. The subordinate informs them that the mountain range is the monster's territory, and they're beginning to gather. He mentions that it's his first time dealing with these creatures, and observes that they are incredibly strong. Our hero remarks that clearing out these enemies now will ease the castle's defense later on. He says he'll handle this area by himself, and orders everyone else to head back to the castle. The others hesitate, wondering if he should be left alone, and offer their assistance. However, he tells them he needs them for something more important, as his grandfather has arrived at the fortress. Yangsu seems stunned by the news and immediately declares they'll rush back to protect the castle. Wishing Chaldu luck, contrary to his orders, Lee decides to stay. As she is the captain of the royal guard, she argues that since Childu was the one who appointed her, She has no choice but to stay by his side. Our hero grumbles that he can't argue with that logic. Then he mounts Sonata. Lee tells him to give the orders. Childu announces that their objective is to reach the summit before the eclipse concludes, stating they must eliminate all enemies in their path. Meanwhile, the herd of minotaurs presses forward without stopping. Our hero charges ahead, raising his axe, shouting for the enemies to face the consequences, activating his running ability. He moves swiftly, cutting down several enemies at once. Lee watches the scene, impressed by his movements. His precision outmatches even that of the minotaur. While the monsters have beastly forms, they are no match for him. Childu easily slashes through the powerful beast, displaying perfect synergy with his horde. Suddenly, a minotaur's head falls in front of Lee, causing her to question her own actions. She realizes she didn't come just to watch. Using Childu's broad back as cover, she enters the battle. Our hero continues to attack with his axe and takes down yet another monster. Lee thinks that no ordinary person could match his strength. Soon after the skirmish, the warrior approaches Lee and comments that she's a bit late. Suddenly, a loud scream is heard. Something in the distance catches their attention. They see a village engulfed in flames and hear people calling for help. Lee asks what's happening there. Childu realizes people are in danger and contemplates his next move. He thinks of Ironhead Castle, knowing protecting it won't be easy either. However, he remembers his grandfather's teaching that human lives are precious and must be protected. Therefore, our hero decides to assist the village. Getting closer, they see that the attackers are enraged goblins. Meanwhile, a swarm of goblins charges toward the village. A man fleeing from a goblin asks a mercenary to handle them, quickly offering more money. The masked warrior says this is far more than what they previously agreed upon. The man then shouts an offer of $2.5 billion. Stunned by the offer, the mercenary is impressed. The man claims that if he can keep the entire group away from the village, the Yongjun group will pay the full amount. After a brief moment, the mercenary demands the man double the payment to handle everything. He lifts his mask, revealing himself as Daekin Lee, a mercenary from Yongjung village. The man, shocked by the counteroffer, stammers, but seeing the aggressive goblin, he agrees to the payment. He urges the mercenary to hurry and deal with the monsters. With the deal verbally sealed, Daekin jumps off to take care of the goblin. He reflects on how people often question how he can place a price on saving lives. But the answer is simple: he just loves money. He delivers a mighty strike to the enemy. Suddenly, a large purple creature appears, catching him off guard. It knocks him backward. Terrified, the client screams, unable to comprehend what's happening. He sees the mercenary being thrown by a gigantic lizard-like beast. The client panics, questioning why such a creature is roaming about. The system identifies the creature as a furious long-tailed Komodo. The client shrieks in fear as he runs, leaving everything to Daekin. The mercenary scolds him for running, while the Komodo stands in front of him with murderous intent. Daekin knows his time has come, as the monster starts moving toward him to devour him. Our hero arrives and lands a powerful blow on the creature. Childu is pumped up, eager to defeat the Komodo. He stands, filled with killing intent, shouting for the beast to approach. Meanwhile, at the castle entrance, the mercenaries are busy eliminating monsters. Inside, Jint issues orders to gather supplies and tend to the injured. Soon, he notices Gramps praying fervently for Childu. Jint reflects on how the grandfather has been praying without pause since arriving at the castle. The old man, concerned about the war, pleads with a higher power to listen to his prayer and grant his wish. Suddenly, a brilliant light appears, and a message warns him that the Earth Goddess Arena is observing him. The old man is taken aback. Another message follows, telling him that it was a divine summoning, and the goddess responded to his prayer immediately. The message reveals that the Earth Goddess has a question for him. A divine figure then manifests. The figure asks whether the grandfather will accept an oath. A system message explains that, if the pact is made, his class will change to priest under the Earth Goddess. At the castle gates, orders are shouted to shoot arrows at the invaders as one of the lizards charges forward fiercely. A mercenary named Joseph Felton strikes a creature and informs Zhen Huan that the monsters are attempting to climb the wall. He warns him to stay vigilant. Jun Huan encourages his comrades to hold their ground until dawn. Suddenly, a lizard man leaps towards Seung, but Zhen Huan intervenes, delivering multiple strikes to protect her. He asks if she is okay, and Sheng thanks him, calling him officer. Annoyed, he retorts that he's no longer part of the army. Jun Huan then questions why the intelligence squad is there. Seung replies that she also trained for combat, but mid-sentence, an arrow narrowly misses her. Jun Huan pulls her out of danger, criticizing her for not dodging. She stubbornly argues that she wants to be seen as Lee's equal. With a skeptical expression, he points out that she's only been in Nova for a short time. Sung vents her frustration, saying she'll do anything to accelerate her progress. Jun Huan punches her on the head, asking if she's seeking a tragic fate. He explains that anyone striving for growth is bound to feel anxious. He shouts that the Ironhead mercenary squad is full of people like that, and everyone there struggles with their own challenges. He believes Lee is no different, so it's better not to rush and risk stumbling due to impatience. He comments that their leader is likely facing an even tougher fight. The scene shifts to a nearby village where Lee releases her mana. The surrounding monsters are caught off guard by the surge of energy. Holding her sword, the girl quickly moves forward, slashing through several goblins. Meanwhile, Chil unleashes his aura and prepares for battle. He delivers a strong punch to the Komodos and asks if they enjoyed his special kit. He then swings his axe, shouting for the monster to take the blow. The creature's tail intercepts the attack. Our hero realizes it's exceptionally strong. But the battle is far from over. He mounts the creature, yelling that this isn't enough. However, his weapon becomes lodged in the beast's body. Our hero looks confused by the situation. Shildu realizes his axe is stuck in the creature's bone and understands the limitations of fighting midair. The monster then uses its tail to hurl him away. He slides back, noting that a battle axe has limited reach, and the swinging arc is even shorter in midair. He leaps back onto the lizard, using the environment to land on its tail. He jumps again to retrieve his weapon. In a flash, the warrior positions himself on the creature. With a confident grin, Gyadu reflects that the lunar eclipse has made the enemy more formidable. He pulls his axe out and delivers a powerful strike after leaping high into the air. After defeating the beast, our hero gathers the monster's drops. He receives the Komodo's tail and a troll heart, which contains hidden power. Suddenly, a voice asks if he is Kyoldu. Surprised, he asks if Daekin knows him. The man nods, saying he had heard rumors and that seeing him in person is impressive. With a satisfied look, our hero enjoys the praise. Noticing the man's injury, Chaldu uses his healing pendant. Our hero explains that he used divine power to assist, but now the pendant's charges are exhausted. Impressed, Daekin notes that he used the last charge to save him. The protagonist replies that helping someone in need is simply the right thing to do. While inspecting the item, he murmurs that the divine power hasn't vanished, and it may be possible to recharge it. Daekin thinks Koldu is a truly kind-hearted person, which makes him reflect on his own calculating nature. He thanks him for helping both him and the village. Our hero responds proudly that saving the day is nothing special. Moved, Deacon thinks Chioldu is exceptionally humble. He says he could never have done it alone and promises to repay him for saving his life. Our protagonist tells him to do whatever he wishes as long as he doesn't steal any prey. He then heads straight to Lee, who is still fighting Goblin. Soon after, they both successfully eliminate the remaining monsters. A message appears, congratulating the survivors for overcoming the enraged creature, and declares that the lunar eclipse incident has concluded. Lee lets out a sigh of relief, saying it's finally finished. She then wonders whether Ironhead Castle is still secure. The main character replies that the castle should be fine, and when she asks how he could possibly be certain, he confesses he can't truly know. He just trusts it's okay. Lee senses he had been anxious about them earlier. Chioldu says proudly that you can only rely on people you believe will stand on your side. He follows up by telling Lee she was a huge help during the fight. Caught off guard by the praise, Lee looks startled, then smiles with a flushed, happy expression. Our hero prompts her to gather up the numerous status stones. While they collect the variously colored gems, Lee figures they're enough to raise her to triple ranker status. With a heap of stones in his arms, the protagonist contemplates becoming a perfect ranker, and Lee asks if he truly plans to absorb every single one. Worried he might not be able to withstand it, she panics, but he tells her not to fear. A crimson energy begins coursing through Chaldu's body. The boy lets out a scream, insisting this trial will never break him. Then he finds himself in a white void, where a punching bag appears for a force measurement test. Smiling, he squares up to the bag, thinking the evaluation plays right into his strength. He readies himself for what's ahead. In the real world, he's a top-tier athlete who has mastered every martial art on Earth. After striking the bag, he takes first place in the power test, earning 25 points to use in the ranker store. But that was only the start. Next comes the agility trial, and he proves he's lightning fast as well. Once more, he claims the #1 spot. Weaving past obstacles with flawless control, Yadu demonstrates sharp perception and finishes first yet again. Still, the final magic exam catches him off guard. He knows he excels at physical feats, but he's never used magic for anything beyond his skill. To him, it feels beyond impossible. Then an odd sensation washes over him. Chioldu lifts his gaze as familiar tiny flying creatures appear and he smiles in recognition. Long ago, on a lonely hill inside his mind, a younger Chioldu trained. Through relentless effort, that version began to change and grow along with his own inner maturity. A small shoot emerged in the once lifeless land, a sign of life where there had only been endless desert. The protagonist thinks back on what pushed him to develop. He wonders whether it was a comrade mercenary leaving, or maybe the brutal clash with his grandfather. He also considers that building a new family helped him grow up as he changed, those bonds shaping him until he became a formidable warrior. Yet true growth must come from within. To reach it, Koldu has to confront his own pain. His thoughts turn to the spirits who are both allies and adversaries. He doubts they would ever heed him, but he still invites them to talk, since it's been a long time since they last met. Before long, power flows from his hand as he senses the spirit's strength. Once he understands the idea, and remembers he is the child of a barbarian father and a sorceress mother, he clears the magic test and, as usual, takes first place. A system message appears, praising him for completing every ability assessment. Next, the system readies him to enter the infinite arena. Startled, Chil asks if this place is really an arena at all. A notice about the hero's path appears. It says this route demands preparation, and that only those without shackles can be remade into true heroes. Resolved, the protagonist raises his hand and says the answer is obvious. He starts pushing open a massive door, revealing a white waiting room beyond it. Inside the infinite arena, Chil is congratulated for becoming Earth's very first channel hero. Thrilled, he realizes this is where he can battle powerful warriors, without end exactly as he always wanted. Soon, the panel shows choices like the Herald of Strength, agility, and other stats. He notices there are no detailed explanations, and it gives him a headache. With a sly grin, he says that in times like this, there's a signature Chil-style answer. After counting randomly to choose his route, his finger lands on the Herald of Resistance. He announces that's his pick, and the system tells him the Herald of Resistance is being summoned as a companion through hardship. It can be called forth or sent away at will. A blue flame appears, and watching it flicker, Chil remarks that the name sounds like a spirit. He tells the flame he's relying on it as he faces the towering gate. He considers entering the arena right away, but decides it's better to come back later. He remembers people are waiting for him, says he'll head home first, and soon arrives at the castle. The guards shout to announce their lord's return. Junhyun congratulates them on making it back safely. Chil returns the praise and asks how the mercenaries are doing. Thankfully, there are injuries, but no one has died. Our hero feels disappointed that the pendant seems powerless, but Jun Hwan reassures him not to worry about healing. This leaves him puzzled until a brilliant light suddenly envelops a wounded soldier. Fully recovered, the man proudly displays his restored arm. Chil is astonished that the man healed without using the pendant and admires his grandfather's incredible strength. The elder smiles, noting he seems to have gained some new abilities himself. Our boy is completely amazed to see his grandfather there. Meanwhile, Jintai calls out for Chil. The elder rushes over enthusiastically and embraces him tightly, expressing how worried he had been about his grandson. Yadu asks what happened and wonders about the old man's new attire. Grandpa tells him to congratulate him, revealing he has undergone a class change. A few hours earlier, a system notification appeared about a divine summons, as the Earth Goddess had heard the old man's prayer. She posed a question to him. She stated that upon fulfilling a vow, he could change his class to become a priest of the Earth Goddess. Grandpa was taken aback by this revelation. Thinking of his grandson, he resolved that he could no longer be a burden to others. With hands clasped together, he accepted the offer, pledging to do whatever was necessary. The Earth Goddess extended her hand, and a notification confirmed his class change to Priest of the Earth God. The system also announced that he had learned healing and blessing prayers. Back in the present, Childu's group is drinking at a tavern. Our hero holds a gleaming golden pendant, reflecting that his grandfather's skill not only heals but also recharges the item. He expresses gratitude, as these abilities have restored many injured people. Grandpa explains the skill was originally meant for farming, to aid crops to flourish. Smiling, Koldu remarks that his grandfather can now focus on farming as much as he likes. Jin T shares more positive news, mentioning that a previously locked building has now become accessible. He says that by finding the right people, other buildings can also be unlocked, so he plans to search for newcomers with special skill. Our protagonist suggests that the top priority should be recruiting a blacksmith to activate the corresponding building. Jinta notes that many weapons were damaged in the battle and already has the perfect candidate in mind. Seoldu looks suspicious of his choice. However, both men are thinking of the same person. Our hero praises Jinta for his effort, though Jinta credits the elder for the success. Internally, our boy reflects that he initially wanted his grandfather to enjoy a quiet farming life. Now he hopes this new responsibility won't be too overwhelming. A mercenary thanks the elder for the healing and offers him a new dish. The elderly man seems to be adjusting well. Chioldu admits to himself that having the entire family together feels comforting. He invites everyone to toast to their hard work. The others join in, celebrating their victory and cheering for their leader's long life. Later, General Park laughs and points out those who assisted Yangzheng village. Our protagonist notes that such events just happen naturally. Park considers them dependable and explains that the village was established by the Yangjian group. He adds that companies are investing in new projects and anticipates encountering more villages like it. During the expedition, the general thanks Childu for his support, but our hero wonders why he is being thanked since they aren't from Henyang. Laughing, the elder replies that even though they aren't from Henyang, They are still citizens and fellow humans. Our boy feels grateful that the general sent reinforcements. These reinforcements minimize the damage to the castle. The elder notices the boy's sincerity and is touched. Childu realizes how different it feels to provide help rather than receive it. Because of this, he communicates something important. He decides to assist the general in defeating a field boss. This boss, the guardian stone giant, emerges and looks exceptionally powerful. At the boss's spawn point, Lee and Childu face a group of orc miners. Our protagonist is thrilled, shouting to Lee that they are about to embark on a cooperative hunt. The girl, however, is not as eager to hunt a field boss with just the two of them. Lee quickly slays two orcs behind them, complaining that the plan is far too reckless, rewinding to an earlier point. The general is shocked and asks if they truly intend to go alone. When asked, Lee confirms they are leaving with their mercenary. But Chioldu insists only the two of them will go, claiming they are finally strong enough to defeat such enemies. Back in the present, Lee remains skeptical, asking how they plan to handle so many monsters with only 32 minutes left of attack time. Without warning, our boy rides off. Lee asks where he's headed since they're already behind schedule, but Koldu tells her to follow, claiming he has a clever plan. She wonders what he could be thinking as the number of monsters grows. Still puzzled, she asks if he has a specific strategy in mind. After a short ride, Kael'du comes to a stop and announces that they've reached the spot. Startled, Lee questions why he stopped there and what they should do about the monsters on their tail. He tells her that from this moment on, she'll have to face the fight alone. Shocked, Lee struggles to grasp his reasoning. He explains that the plan demands her full effort. Lee then notices that Childu has successfully drawn every ogre nearby to this location. Our boy remarks that there's no alternative if they want to finish on time. Grinning, he reveals the healing pendant, noting that even a broken arm isn't a problem since it can be healed. Lee thinks he's completely insane. He then moves forward to confront the boss. Reaching the target, Childu approaches it as a system message appears. It informs him that the Tree of Protection will summon a guardian to test his ability. Shortly after, the ground trembles and a colossal stone golem rises from the earth. This is the field boss. Our protagonist remarks that the creature is just a massive heap of rocks that only knows how to punch. He views it as a fistfight, so whether it's made of stone or metal makes little difference to him. The stone giant charges rapidly. Our boy leaps high as their fists meet, noting that every strike from the giant carries immense weight. Despite its power, Chioldu insists the fight is still under control. Another volley of punches follows. Soon he incorporates magic into his strikes, stating that brute force alone is no longer sufficient. Then, he lands a devastating blow on the stone giant, producing a massive impact. A flashback unfolds in his inner realm. Our protagonist asks if all the spirits are present. He bows and apologizes for everything, acknowledging that his trauma has caused them unnecessary suffering. The spirits approach with warmth, observing the creatures. Childu realizes they have been waiting for him this whole time. He vows never to abandon them again, deciding that from now on they will fight together. Back in the present, he reflects that of the 5 spirits. These are the least impactful to his combat style, yet he never imagined achieving such harmony with them. Surrounded by stone fists, he wants the spirits to synchronize even more effectively this time. The stone giant attacks again. Dodging with a grin, he teases the giant by asking if it feels cold. The stone beast prepares a crushing kick. Childu evades but complains that using weapons in a fistfight feels unfair, yet the giant's strike lands with force, sending our protagonist flying. Taken aback by the impact, he protests as the giant closes in. Without a chance to react, a massive stone arm strikes him squarely. The blow kicks up a huge dust cloud. Falling with a grin, he remarks that using a club is overkill. Even though he's virtually invincible, the hit still hurts. Focusing, Childu rises and leaps at the stone monster, shouting that the fight ends now. Harnessing the spirit's power, he creates stone pillars to launch himself into the air. He nears the giant, promising it a more intense encounter. Grabbing its head, he decides to realign its spine. Once completed, a system message confirms that the stone golem guardian has been defeated. He obtains a new item, the stone giant club. Our hero deems it the perfect weapon. The protection tree evolves into the guardian tree, expanding the area of effect when token donations are made. Content: Koldu celebrates yet another mission successfully accomplished. System messages continue, announcing that Area C6114 is now recognized as new territory and will welcome new inhabitants. Additionally, the protective fog is lifted. In the Korean government office, a man reports to the president that the Cheongju portal has opened. They must swiftly pass a new special law. The president considers upgrading Nova to city status and appointing a mayor. The opposition leader claims the current military rule is an outdated form of control. Another man agrees in principle, but believes the timing is wrong. They argue that Nova is nearly in a state of war, making the military essential for public security. They are not demanding a retreat. Instead, their goal is to prevent an administrative breakdown. The president responds by pointing out that Nova, linked to Pohang and Yosu, has already fallen under corporate control. If a mayor is chosen, it's expected that a corporate representative will dominate. The president warns that corporations would seize complete control, emphasizing that this is a weighty decision. A man delivers an urgent report from Neosol, questioning the president's next move and implying that this reflects military ineptitude. Recently in Neosol, a lavish Western-style carriage arrived, drawing a lot of attention. The general wonders about its purpose and origin. New guards surround it, ordering it to halt, and a lieutenant insists they move the carriage immediately. From its steps a striking elf named Ardia, who mutters in her own language about human shamelessness. The lieutenant cannot understand her, so she brandishes her blade. She proclaims in her tongue that the Empire has arrived and intends to claim this land. The president is informed that Colonel Junsi Park was captured by an alien race, highlighting military failure. He grasps the advisor's implied message. If a congressman had been elected, the outcome might differ. The advisor agrees, noting such an official would have avoided clumsy mismanagement. Placing his hand on the table, the president insists it wouldn't have changed the outcome. He explains they are facing aliens, and it's unclear if ordinary logic even applies. The man then questions how the president intends to resolve the matter and whether the military is capable. With a confident grin, the president replies that in war, solutions come from those on the front lines. He adds that he already has the right person in mind. Lieutenant General Park Junpal, second in command of the Nova Army, will be sent for the task. The president assures the right man will handle it. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, our hero and Lee observe spirits gathering stones and coins. Oldu laughs, commenting on the usefulness of the giant. Lee asks why he's laughing, and the hero explains it reminds him of his father's laughter. Surprised, Lee asks if he really admired his father. Curious, she asks what kind of man he was, and he answers that he was an exceptional warrior. Lee wonders if he means a martial artist, but Koldu corrects her. He was a true warrior. When she presses further, she assures him it's fine if he doesn't wish to talk. Suddenly, a glowing portal opens and a goblin merchant appears, cheerfully noting his frequent visits to Earth. Our hero immediately asks to see his merchandise. The goblin, sensing impatience, advises him to observe carefully as several item windows appear. One window displays the Guardian Tree Goblin Shop's inventory, including a new addition. The World Map Enhancement. Our hero wonders if it's a new release and instantly decides to purchase it. He activates the upgraded map, projecting a large holographic display before them. Much larger than the previous version, Chaldu points to a revealed section of the map and asks why it's visible. Lee suggests it might be a location they've visited before. Our hero doubts he has been that far, and a notification identifies it as Area C442. Astonished, he realizes it's Neosol. Lee excitedly notes they've found a path to the city. Our protagonist remarks it seems distant, with 3 maps separating them. Lee Young observes that being physically connected is an extraordinary finding, and they've achieved something new as Nova pioneers. Meanwhile, the goblin merchant grins mischievously, noting he's approaching closer. As the pair walks away, the goblin remarks that Earth is now within reach. Elsewhere, LT, Jen Park stands before a portal and calls to Child. Our hero greets him. Park notices he's already defeated a field boss and teases his impatience. Our protagonist counters, suggesting Park seems in more of a rush. Park explains he's headed to Seoul for urgent matters. He reports sightings of alien groups near Neosol, surprising Chil. Our hero considers there may be other barbarians like him. The general notes these might be aliens arriving after regional collapses. Park tells him to postpone celebrating as he must leave. Chaldu protests, questioning how he can dismiss such a serious issue, and requests to be included in the journey. Our protagonist argues that having a soldier accompany the delegation would be a sensible idea. The scene shifts to the Paju Hotel on Earth. In a lavish suite, our hero, clad in a bathrobe, meets number 5 and her companion. Inquiring if they arrived ahead of schedule, number 1 nods and asks what he thinks of the hotel. Chioldu responds positively, mentioning that the Nova portal is nearby. He then asks number 5 why she's constantly with him and if she holds any other position. The woman grins and replies that her role is driving, which is a crucial task for the president. Our hero inquires if the arrangements for relocating the mercenary families are finished. Number 1 affirms that the process is underway in stages. He adds that for Director Choi's parents, they are purchasing an entire hospital to manage their situation in a special manner. Our hero is taken aback by the information. Number 1 apologizes, thinking it might be excessive, but Chioldu reassures him that it's exactly the kind of action he prefers. Our protagonist advises him not to forget his roots just because of his current position, and suggests he visit Nova once things are sorted out. Number 1 agrees and notices his phone vibrating. He passes it to Chioldu, mentioning that it's a call from Lieutenant General Park. Later on a rainy evening, Park welcomes Chioldu, who has just arrived, and apologizes for the late call. Our hero assures him that everything is fine and asks if a decision has been made regarding his participation in the delegation. Park replies that nothing has been finalized yet, but they wanted to meet him face to face. Therefore, they brought him in. Park requests that Chioldu hold back today, knowing that the captain has a tendency to cause trouble. Our protagonist asks why. As the doors open, Park reveals that the person he's about to meet is the president of the Republic of Korea, Kim Song. They enter and Park and Chioldu approach the president, who remarks that they've finally met. President Kim extends his hand, expressing it's an honor to meet the man of the hour. Park watches with anxiety as our hero remains silent. The two shake hands and Chioldu responds that the honor is mutual. He then introduces himself as Kang Childu, captain of the Ironhead mercenary group. Park is taken aback by his formal demeanor. The president explains that he contacted him because it's time to take a clear stance on alien groups. He mentions that he values their perspective. The situation is that in Neosol, Lieutenant Kim has been taken hostage. Chioldu repeats the word hostage and inquires if Kim holds significant importance. The president responds affirmatively, explaining that every citizen of the Republic of Korea matters. With a grave expression, he adds that taking a hostage is a clear act of provocation. He asks if our hero doesn't already understand the answer. Our protagonist explains that although it's a provocation, it can't rush into combat. The hostage situation means there is an opening for dialogue. Ultimately, there is only one solution. They need to engage in conversation to understand the alien's true motive. The president smiles, pleased that they share the same view. He then asks what will happen if they refuse peace. Our hero states that they will then have to demonstrate their resolve. Childu asks for permission to accompany General Park. The president laughs, saying that once again, they think alike and believes he can entrust this important mission to him. With a smile, the president asks how Chioldu knew about his decision. Chioldu confidently answers that of course he knew, simply imagining the mindset of a leader. Protecting his people, Park watches the exchange, wondering if he has ever seen our hero behave with such maturity. Usually, Chioldu speaks of starting by cracking open the heads of his foe. In a wide expanse, Childu remarks that it's his first time crossing the border. As they ride, General Park comments that the weather remains constant on both sides of the boundary. However, our protagonist wonders if they are even on the correct path. Park explains that the Imperial forces traveled this way, so he assumed they should follow. After several days of marching, Childu notes they've found nothing. Park laments his inability to communicate with the foreigners in this land. Breathing heavily, the general praises Chioldu for not showing signs of fatigue. However, in reality, our hero is utterly drained, his eyes darkened with exhaustion. When Park asks why he refuses to sleep, Chioldu replies that he's there to protect him as his bodyguard. The general, grateful, encourages him to rest, but our hero declines. He can't afford to rest while suspecting that these aliens might be savages. Suddenly, the general halts his horse, spotting something ahead. Chioldu smiles, recognizing the sight before them. A massive fortress stands tall, resembling Ironhead Castle. Several guards patrol along the castle walls, spears in hand. The two men remain motionless, taking in the scene, while Park remarks on the oppressive feeling in the air. Yet the warrior freezes, startled by the emblem emblazoned on the fortress's banner. That flag represents the Imperial faction, renowned for amassing tremendous wealth through trade and leveraging their intellect to consolidate authority. Aimed for their focus on profitable ventures, Chioldu sees them as arrogant, money-driven people who covet everything they can buy. Still, they entertain barbarians, mainly because when famine strikes, these outsiders make convenient sources of supplies to seize. Inside, opulence meets calm serenity. LT. Kim is being indulged by two women, chuckling as they feed him exquisite dishes. One woman beams, offering him another bite. Kim considers this a life of comfort. Even without understanding their tongue, he regards the place as a genuine paradise. Embracing the women, he rationalizes his presence, insisting he has not betrayed his nation, claiming anyone would do the same when faced with such powerful beings. His demeanor shifts immediately when Ardia arrives, interrogating him about the newly arrived humans, her anger palpable as she gauges his fear. Kim pledges to reveal everything if spared. Ardia merely points, causing him to recoil. She then enchants his eyes with magic. His eyes glow purple as he is commanded to watch. In his mind, images of the general and the protagonist appear as the elf questions him. Kim identifies General Park Junpil. When asked about the other man, he cries out Chioldu's name, The spell dissipates, leaving the elf startled. Panicking, Kim screams that he is doomed, fearing retribution for his betrayal. He believes that even against the Empire, Kiadu could handle them. Ardia dismisses her previous efforts as useless, and suddenly Kim is struck fatally in the Empire's name. She sentences him to death. Outside, the hero never expected to see that insignia and wonders if he can gather intel about the Barbarian. The general calls out to the castle, stating they come from Neosol to retrieve their companion and request a meeting. A guard shouts something unintelligible in response. As the gates swing open, Park eagerly suggests they enter and speak with the inhabitants. Chil halts him, summoning his axe, leaving the general astonished. He explains the gates weren't opened as a greeting. The people have no desire to converse. Park, surprised, asks if he understood the shout. Chioldu uses a search skill, revealing the guard as Gorian, an Imperial Knight with level 3 swordsmanship. Chioldu is astonished that this level surpasses Count Ryan, whom he battled previously. He ponders the true might of the Empire. Gorian, calling them fools, declares our hero has made his final choice. Gorian strikes, vowing to desolate their lands, but Chioldu blocks with his axe, as their weapons clash. Chioldu questions who allowed their territory to be trampled, remaining completely unafraid. Gorian wonders how a human comprehends his speech. Chioldu demands the return of his people, asserting that a translator cannot survive. Gorian launches a rapid assault. Chioldu barely deflects. The knight leaps, mocking Chioldu's challenge as absurd. Chioldu grins wickedly, calling the Imperials fools, leaving the knight puzzled as he detects a barbarian scent on him. The two clash again, sending a massive shockwave through the air. Gorian is shocked as Chioldu halts the blade with ease. Chioldu senses the axe's balance has shifted, realizing a change has occurred. A notification shows he has mastered the technique. His skill rises to level 3. Gorian strikes again, but Chioldu blocks every blow, sending the knight flying backward. The knight is stunned by Chioldu's strength. When Chioldu counters, Gorian's sword breaks as he tries to defend, collapsing and calling him a barbarian. Chioldu notes the battle is already decided. With a fierce glare, he raises his axe to finish the fight. At the last moment, Park yells for him to stop, warning that killing the knight could spark war. He pleads for restraint, but Chioldu insists the knight struck first. The general continues urging caution. Suddenly, a smiling figure appears on a balcony, observing the scene with amusement. They look up to see Carrie and Vortin, Baron of the Empire. He invites them to enter, motioning them forward. Chioldu remarks that they are finally being welcomed inside. The general notes that Chioldu's strength paved the way for dialogue. Chioldu agrees. He comments that they are at last entering the enemy's stronghold. Guards escort Chioldu and General Park into a lavish hall. When Park asks how he understands the local language, Chioldu explains he learned it in youth. The general notes it is fortunate Chioldu is bilingual. As they keep moving, a maid suddenly speaks in her own language, presenting a box containing 2 vivid blue potion bottles. While General Park wonders what they are, Chioldu identifies the bottles as communication elixirs. The general remains wary, suspecting poison and mentioning his hunger, but our hero drinks immediately, ignoring any possible risk. He empties the bottle in one gulp, prompting the general to follow his lead. Shortly after, they reach a vast garden with an impressive banquet. Baron Kallian greets the visitors from Earth and introduces himself formally, leading General Park and Chioldu to offer their own introduction. The general realizes he can no longer understand the local language unaided. The Baron invites them to converse and enjoy the feast. Delighted by the food, our hero remarks that he and the Baron might actually get along. While eating, Chioldu silently praises the imperial cuisine. The general also finds it quite tasty. Eventually, the Baron interrupts the meal to ask why they sought this meeting. General Park pauses his eating to start negotiations, correcting the Baron by pointing out that the Imperials initiated the conversation. Baron Kalyan laughs derisively, leaving the general clearly annoyed. With a mouthful, our hero complains that the laughter is irritating. The general calms him, insisting he will take charge of the discussion. Park explains that they are there to negotiate because they suspect a specific motive behind the colonel's abduction. Wearing a mocking smile, the young Baron questions their intent to negotiate and reveals he only ever sought submission, shocking General Park. Baron Kalyan ridicules their hope for negotiation, stating that nothing can be discussed without a proper exchange. He declares that he has already extracted all required information from the colonel. He describes the colonel as feeble and worthless, rising from the table with resolve. The Baron admits he reconsidered upon seeing such a powerful warrior among the Earthlings. He proposes that to prevent disaster for their village, Chioldu must be surrendered as compensation. Furious, the general slams the table, shouting that humans are not commodity. He demands the colonel's immediate return, but the Baron coldly informs him that the colonel has been killed for being useless. Clenching his teeth in rage, the general tells Chioldu not to restrain himself, while our hero stays focused on his meal, exclaiming how delicious it is. The Baron offers to serve this food daily, if Childu pledges complete loyalty to him. Our hero argues it would be impolite to leave without enjoying the meal after such effort. He then demolishes the entire table, proclaiming that one can eat even at a funeral. The Baron leaps back laughing, amused by the warrior's behavior and likening him to a human barbarian. Childu vows to correct the Baron's arrogance, but Ardia suddenly appears, threatening the general with a sword. Our hero is startled by her speed and takes note of her slender frame and large ears. Childu recognizes her as a member of the fairy folk, sworn enemies of the barbarian. The Baron teases him, asking if he's taken with his servant's looks. The general signals Childu, hoping he will respond wisely. Grabbing a fork, our hero notes that taking hostages seems to be their specialty. He decides to act impulsively rather than rationally. He hurls the fork with enhanced speed and force using his skill. Ardia notices the swift attack, eyes widening in surprise. She quickly moves the hostage out of the way and deflects the projectile with her sword. The warrior charges furiously, accusing the fairy of employing the same vile tricks her kind always uses. Their blades clash with tremendous force. Ardia asks if he harbors resentment toward her people as they exchange another fierce strike. Childu senses something familiar from his foe and vows to make her pay for harming his friend. Ardia dares him to test his luck, and they trade a flurry of lightning-fast blows. Childu narrowly avoids a strike grazing him, but the next blow lands on his back, drawing blood. Ardia reflects on a barbarian's source of power, the rite of passage that channels ancestral spirit. Yet she observes that Childu lacks the customary red tattoos. Despite his wound, he heals swiftly using his golem regeneration. Ardia believes a barbarian's true potential only emerges when rage is governed by a disciplined spirit. Determined, our hero throws himself into the fight, and Ardia readies her full strength in response. As they clash, Ardia mentions past battles with mana-infused swords and asks if he understands, her blade starting to gleam. Smiling, Childer claims he can do something alike, drawing the Steel Knight's longsword and summoning surrounding spirit. He suggests enjoying a bonfire together, leaving Ardia speechless and bewildered by the spirits gathering around him. Childu strikes Ardia with a barrage of forceful attacks, yet she evades each effortlessly. He pushes his power to the limit, but the fairy smoothly sidesteps as the clash intensifies. During a sharp counter, Ardia nearly lands a hit, forcing our hero to retreat just in time, observing the skirmish from a short distance. The young Baron is awed by the barbarian's might and tries to escape while the two remain focused on each other. Luckily, the general spots him and rushes forward to intercept. Meanwhile, Childu's swordplay has reached its peak, channeling magic to enhance each strike. He sees this as the ideal moment to showcase his skill against an opponent versed in mystical arts. Irritated by his ability, Ardia questions how he can wield spirits as she lunges to attack again. Our hero dodges, countering with a question about her own powers, prompting her to click her tongue in exasperation. She points out he has no barbarian tattoo. Childu reflects that, growing up on Earth without warrior training, it's natural he lacks them. Regardless, he has trained tirelessly to become formidable and refuses to lose this battle. He strikes with his magical blade as she counters with spells, noting the complexity of her magic. Then he calls on his spirits, merging all four into his body to maintain his strength. Ardia shivers as four powerful dragons surge toward her. Their impact shatters her shield, and our hero leaps in to deliver a crushing strike. Declaring he truly is a barbarian, he lands the blow and inquires if anyone from Valhalla is present. Coughing from the hit, she shakes her head, stating barbarians cannot be tamed. She questions why he spares her, and Childu explains. He implies that killing an oath-bound enemy changes nothing. Ardia realizes those who killed his parents were fellow barbarians. Moreover, the one who truly should die is the Baron, now captured and kneeling. The general informs our hero that the man tried to escape but was apprehended. Cornered, the Baron admits underestimating humans and seeks to negotiate. Childu coldly deems him arrogant, saying negotiations only matter when one has leverage, then eliminates the Baron. The general feels a fleeting regret for not saving the colonel, but our hero reminds him the man was a traitor. The general laughs, calls Childu a robot, and remarks that the previous battle was astonishing. Our hero proudly asks if he performed well as a bodyguard. Ark praises him for single-handedly halting the war by defeating their foes. He suggests returning to Neosol, but they suddenly notice Ardia dissolving into the air light. Baron Callion and soon the castle tremble, collapsing as its lord vanishes. Both men flee swiftly before the structure crumbles entirely. The general finds it strange that the people vanished along with their lord and the fortress. Unexpectedly, a group of workers from Callion Castle shows up and reveals that the missing individuals had entered into a vassal agreement. Childu is astonished to see these survivors alive. One of them explains that they were commoners with no privilege to sign such a contract. She expresses gratitude for their chance to escape and bows, requesting that he become their new master, since he had taken down the Baron. The maid asserts that he is the rightful person to lead them. After a moment's pause, he asks the general if taking them to Neosol would be difficult. The general responds that the language barrier is just one of the many obstacles. Other complications could arise, including the chance that the government might force the survivors into experiments. Our protagonist asks if this would happen to him as well if his true identity were exposed. He decides to reveal the truth, telling Park he is a barbarian. The general is initially stunned but admits that he had suspected this for some time, especially during the journey. He assures him that he won't allow Chil to be used for research. He assures him that he considers him a friend, reassured by this. The protagonist feels more at ease. He decides to take the maid and her group to Ironhead Castle, where they will settle. General Park points out that using the portal isn't an option, and they'll have to find a new route. Xiaodu reveals that he's already discovered a path linking Neosol with Hanyang. The general is impressed and commends him for the remarkable discovery. Our hero remarks that the journey will be long, but he now has even more reasons to explore the world of Nova. He reflects on the fact that barbarians do indeed exist in Nova, and that the path to becoming a true warrior lies within this land. He vows to train his mercenaries and himself until they have explored every corner of Nova.